We are live. Hey guys, how are you doing? Welcome to the Super Post podcast where we talk about things DC, Marvel, and Star Wars. Guys, today we have someone very special for you guys. I should have put him like in the dark and then I should have like brought him in to give like the crazy like entrance. So I'm sorry. But guys, we are joined by the legendary Taylor Murphy from the Culture Nerd. Bro, how are you doing, man? What is
I'm
up?
doing good. I'm doing good, actually. Um, Going to school, working, got kids, living the life. So,
Awesome, bro. And obviously, we are joined by the usual Comics Cuts. What's up, brother? How are you?
What's up, man? Happy to be here. We got a good topic today. Taylor, just wanted to shout out. Thanks for coming on. You're the first guest we've had, so we feel pretty awesome that we got a big name like yourself to come on. We appreciate it, and I think the listeners are going to really enjoy him and his perspective that he has on things. We talk from time to time, and I always appreciate your opinion. So cool to have you on.
well, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much, man. So before we get into the rankings really fast, because we've been having this like debate with a bunch of people. Did you like Ant-Man?
Which one?
Quantumania?
I love the first one because it's quirky and it's fun and it is a heist movie. Second one, not my bag. Third one, very rushed, very problematic, and you can kind of tell that it was the product of a short deadline with a very crunch of work. So it felt like a lot of good ideas were either cut out of the editing room or just left on the drawing board. So.
So how do you feel about like the MCU right now, like as a whole? Like, do you like the road that they're going down, or?
I I like the MCU. I think a lot of people who think that I'm a diehard DC fan forget that I do love the MCU and I do see all the movies, and my top 10 is slightly different than everyone else's typically, because most people put the first Thor movie at like the bottom of their list, and the first Thor movie to me is like my top 3. Like, I love it to death. To me, it's the best of the Thor movies, except for Infinity War, which is 100% a Thor movie. So, but in terms of the MCU as a whole, I think the last phase that we had, Phase 4, was very clustered. It was very kind of all over the place, and it really felt like they were in kind of this vacuum because the loss of Iron Man, the loss of Captain America. They had to like, let's fix the roster. Let's just throw in as many characters as we possibly can, and some of the projects were pretty fantastic, but at the same time, it really felt aimless, and that was a big issue that I had with it. Was that you have Miss Marvel, you have Moon Knight, you have She-Hulk, and where do these projects fit into the grand scheme of things? They will definitely fit in later on, but there was almost like with the first Marvel Phase 1, it was, here's the main roster and here's the payoff at the Avengers at the end of the phase. And Phase 4 just felt like it was, we're going to just build it as big as we can so that in Phase 5 actually makes sense. And it just felt like kind of disjointed, because I personally loved Moon Knight, but I don't see Moon Knight fitting in, even in Secret Wars. I don't see it happening, because I think Moon Knight is kind of his own corner, and unless they're going to go this route where they end up making that long-rumored Midnight Suns movie miniseries where it's like Punisher, Daredevil, Moon Knight, and all those characters. If that's a real thing, that makes sense. I want that, because, I mean, we've already got all the pieces. All the rumored pieces were Punisher, which is now back. We had Werewolf by Night, which has his own mini event movie, and Moon Knight, and there's supposed to be a couple others that haven't popped up yet. But if they do, then I'm all for it. But even then, like, how do the Midnight Suns fit into the Secret Wars, unless they're just going to randomly show up in that movie and be like, oh, cool, they're there, So to me, the latest phase of Marvel, it's been very disjointed, and I love the multiverse stuff, but I feel like they were trying to bolster their ranks before they explain what the story actually is.
100%.
100% agree. And like now apparently the whole Captain Marvel thing has me tripping out now, because apparently Secret Wars might be getting moved to like 2027 or 2028. And so now they're taking out all of these kind of hints that were going to hint towards King the Conqueror. So I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm like a little confused about what the MCU is going to be doing these next 3 to 4
I
years.
heard that
So
rumor too, but everyone I've spoke to behind the scenes has said that Secret Wars news about it being pushed like 4 years is not true.
good. Okay.
Because like everyone I've talked to, like there was My Time to Shine, Daniel RPK. I reached out to Daniel, and he said no, that's not a thing. It's not going to jump back that many years. If anything, it'll be pushed back 6 months at most. So
Good.
that's
Okay.
about it.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, first of all, when Kevin Feige made that whole announcement and was walking through the timeline, as exciting as it was, I had some initial thoughts about the fact that they were talking about doing, I think it was either 6 months or a year apart between Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. And I was just like, if it's 6 months, I don't see that happening. But I do think that they want it to come out within a year. I think that, and I've mentioned this before on the show, like when Infinity War came out and then a year later Endgame came out, like I remember a lot of people that never watched a Marvel movie, like that hype from having those two come out 1 year apart got a lot of people to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to check out this whole Marvel thing. What's this hype about? And then they watched the whole thing, front to back and became big Marvel fans. But I just think 6 months is way too close, and it was easy to say that when 2025 is far out, and they need to build some hype right now with, because listen, there are casual MCU fans that are like, you know what? I'm not going to go see the Marvel movies in theaters anymore. They're not really doing it for me right now. So I think that there was a lot riding on that timeline announcement, and Kevin Feige wanted to put, some hope and faith back into some fans that have been disappointed.
Oh, 100%. And to me, it reminded me a lot, like maybe it's something that you guys don't remember because you're probably just too young, but back in 2003, when I was in high school, the Matrix movies had Matrix 2 and Matrix 3 6 months apart. I think it was in May, Reloaded came out, and then like November, Revelations came out. And that was a huge deal because that was the first time that you saw a movie that was filmed back to back that also pumped out two massive movies in 1 year. I think that's what Marvel was trying to go for, but at the same time, as we saw with this latest phase, Wakanda Forever was good in its own regard, but I also felt it was very lacking because you had the loss of Chadwick and then them having to rewrite the whole movie and then still maintain that same release date. So it felt like they were really under the clock there. And same thing with what we had with the new Ant-Man, where they said that the special effects suffered because they diverted members over to Wakanda Forever. If you have this many movies happening this fast in this succession, you're going to run into that same issue where Secret Wars may not look as good as King Dynasty, or King Dynasty may not look good as Secret Wars, or any of the other movies in between may not look, because they're going to bolster their ranks and just get as many artists working on it, or it's going to suffer. And I felt like they were putting too much too quickly, and they did need to breathe it out a little bit more.
I agree.
No, that's a really good point.
I agree. Yeah, I am. I'm very interested to see what the next move, because it does. I mean, Feige did say that they are going to slow down. So very interested to see what. I'm very interested to see what these next films are going to point to in regards to King the Conqueror, because I mean, and this will be my last point before we get into the our rankings. One of the things that it kind of felt like in Phase 4 is that it felt like there were a lot of times where you could have introduced different versions of Kang in Phase 4 and they just weren't at all. Like the whole time, bro, I thought that Rama Tut was going to be in Moon Knight because obviously the whole Egyptian thing, and then we just get no parts of that at all. And then we even get to see someone like Bast and Thor, but then we don't see Bast in Black Panther. Yeah, and it just kind of felt like they were just throwing out a bunch of cool ideas, but they weren't following through with any of them. And then at the end of Ant-Man, we get Rama Tut and obviously all of
The
the
rest
other
of them, yeah.
kings. So yeah, it's just it's just been weird how a lot of things have been coming together. And like the one thing that's not also helping is his Loveness keeps running his mouth every interview, and I don't know if he's like trolling or not, but like I do kind of miss where like when we were going through the Avengers stuff, no, like none of the people in Marvel were really talking that much, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I like as much as I love leaks and I do cover leaks a lot, I do kind of miss the mystery that Marvel kind of used to have. And I hope that that with all these reshoots happening and all and with the Marvels being pushed back and all of these other projects, we get some really nice surprises that we really didn't see coming at all. But I have faith still. I ride the Marvel train forever.
Facts. Me too.
Somebody just commented we need Rama Tut and Moon Knight season 2 though.
Do we though? I mean, Moon Knight season
Yeah.
2. I mean, we know what's happening. Obviously, it's like it's there. But my stance has always been the fact that we have the front and center side of what we got in that post credit stinger with the was it Jacob? I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah, we have that persona now taking over, and we have obviously the god basically using him as a like a limo driver. Like it's
Right,
kind of
right.
amazing. I think we've got some really cool ground to cover, and I think some weird stuff. And I loved Moon Knight for what it was, but I also grew up reading Moon Knight, and Moon Knight was essentially a crazy Batman. So I missed having like a Moon Knight that had his own Bat Cave and the flying plane thing, and I was like, this is pretty cool. But I like what they did with it, but I also kind of want to see like Jacob having this. Oh, by the way, I have this compound because I'm operating out of it. Like I would love something like that. Just a nod to the comics would be really cool.
Yeah. I 100%
We got a lot of
agree.
ground to cover.
I agree. All right. So guys, so this episode is really about we are ranking all of our Marvel Studios movies from really we obviously there's so many films that we will be doing this podcast for almost 3 hours if we were to rank every Marvel Studios project. Comic Cuts and I already tried that, and that episode was super long.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think we only did like phase 4. Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
So we are just ranking our top 10 MCU films. So the way that this is going to go, guys, is that we are going to start at 10 and we are going to work the way down. So really just give your movie, explain why, and then we can either, debate or ask why, etc. All right. So Comic Cuts, we are going to start with you. What is your 10th favorite MCU film?
So I actually put Black Panther. Listen, for the second I started this list, I was wondering if Black Panther was going to make the cut. I almost didn't want it on the list because I'm still so disappointed that they didn't recast T'Challa. And it's kind of like kills me that they had such a great character, such a great movie, and then they were like, you know what, we're not going to recast them, and we're going to put out Wakanda Forever. But having said that, I think that when you watch Black Panther, like it was incredible. The way they, put Wakanda on the screen, the way they world built with Wakanda and all the characters in the kingdom, that still have such a presence through every Marvel project that they're in. Even in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, in Infinity War, it was just amazing. And obviously Chadwick absolutely crushed that role. I think that was one of the best castings that, Marvel has had, period. So it's hard to do a top 10 list and not have Black Panther on it, which is why I couldn't, I literally, I tried to think of what else could go in the 10th spot above Black Panther. And I just couldn't. So, well deserving. If I had, spent more time with it, maybe it would have moved up a little bit further on the list. But I don't think I could have ranked it above the other movies that I have, but nonetheless, definitely one of my favorite Marvel movies. Love rewatching it every time, and that's why it took the 10 for me.
All right, Taylor.
So my number 10 is actually Captain America: The First Avenger. I know it's kind of a controversial one for a lot of people because a lot of Phase 1 wasn't the best for people unless they physically saw it in theaters when it was first debuting. And I think to me, The First Avenger was absolutely just fantastic. Back in 2011 when I first saw it, my wife and I had just gotten married, and it was one of the first movies we saw together. To me, it was Joe Johnston made this movie, and Joe Johnston was known for his work on like The Rocketeer, on the Jurassic Park movies, and he had this adventure style to this movie that you don't really get anymore, especially with the Marvel and the MCU as a whole. To me, this one felt like it was a period piece, but it was also had that fantastical nature to it. When the moments start up in Norway and you have the Red Skull popping through the doors in this giant behemoth of a vehicle, things like that, like it felt unique. And especially during the time of when this movie came out, it was a lot of fun. And you don't get MCU movies that have that vibe anymore. And I always love it. And I can still rewatch it and be happy with it. And Hugo Weaving is just such a perfect villain. Like just no remorse. Just I'm just pure evil and I hate everybody. The world's gonna burn. You don't get villains like that because a lot of the MCU, you have all these redeeming villains, and this was the first time you got a villain that's literally pure evil. Like he's a Nazi who thinks the Nazis are soft, which is insane. Yeah. So it's hard to not think this movie is absolutely fantastic.
Dude, I'm definitely rewatching that tonight, like for sure. And like a lot of people, and a lot of people don't talk about it, but dude, that is one of the most perfectly paced films ever.
It is.
Like the pacing is like, I mean, it goes slow when it needs to go slow, and when it needs to go fast, it goes fast, bro. I mean, the pacing is top tier in that film. Oh my goodness.
And it was full of so much foreshadowing and just pure prime early Marvel stuff. Like the only issues that I ever had with this movie as a whole was just some of the CGI isn't the best. That was the only issue I have with it, because there's a couple parts even near the end where like they get in the car to catch the other plane, and I'm like, wow, the CGI really sucks in this scene. But aside from that, if you can put yourself past that, there's so many great moments, like on the train where Bucky picks up the shield and starts charging that guy.
Oh
like,
yeah,
it's like this is fantastic, and there's Easter eggs everywhere. Like the fact that Red Skull's power batteries make the same sound as Iron Man's blast. You're like, wow, it's okay, so that's what he did. That's what this unknown element is. It's actually derived from the cube. Like Iron Man is powered by energy from a cosmic cube. Like this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like there's so many of these cool little Easter eggs. And then they obviously revisited them. Like Bucky was experimented on. He's a super soldier. So you had that scene where he's all hooked up and you see all the stuff in the background, or even the scene with Zola picking up all of his papers, and there's a literal blueprint of Zola's TV body.
Yeah,
right.
I love this movie. It's so much fun, especially as a comic fan. It was cool, and the suit itself is a World War II era jumpsuit. Like it's a flight suit, so you can parachute with it. It's got the straps for parachuting. It's actually practical.
The suit looks
fantastic.
Great.
Yeah,
I saw it in theaters too, by the way.
It's a cool movie. Yeah.
Great movie, bro. Oh my gosh, dude. I was so young. Honestly, I don't think I appreciated it until I turned like 17.
Yeah.
Honestly, because when that came out, what was that? 2009, 2010?
2011.
Yeah. So dude. So I was 12. So like, I mean, I was just hyped to see it, but I didn't really. Yes, dude. So I didn't appreciate it till like I was freaking like 17. Okay. So my number 10 is Spider-Man: Homecoming. So it's actually hilarious because I was talking to some of my friends about this one, and I was telling them that this is probably my I like this movie more than No Way Home, and a lot of my friends thought that I was crazy. I'll be honest, coming off of the Andrew and the Toby stuff, when Spider-Man was first introduced in the Civil War, I hated it. I'm not gonna lie, I was not sold on Tom Holland at first, nor the way he was introduced into the MCU at first, and it was because it kind of felt like Tom Holland's Spider-Man was just given everything with like no effort. Tony built everything for him. And when I watched Spider-Man Homecoming, I'm literally watching this guy like become Spider-Man. Like he's becoming
Yeah.
kind of sort of his own man. And one of the biggest parts of me. I mean, I even got like emotional watching this when I first saw it was when Tony took everything away and he still went after Vulture in that pajama suit. You know what I mean? And I mean, and just seeing like Zendaya Coleman as like the MJ. I used to watch her on Shake It Up on freaking Disney, bro. I mean, and so and kind of just seeing all of kind of everything come together, it was very dope. And I also ended up liking Iron Man's role in the film, playing kind of the father figure in this, because I'm not gonna lie, I was not trying to see Uncle Ben get clapped again. I was like, we've already seen this twice, like So kind of seeing Tony like kind of step into that role, it actually fit the story perfectly, and and it's definitely very different than what we would read in a comic book. But to fit the MCU, it was the most perfect fit ever, and and kind of seeing how that grows, as we go on to see other Avengers films, stuff like that. But yeah, man, that's why I love it.
I really do think that with the whole like MCU Spider-Man trilogy, they really did a good job of, number one, showing Peter Parker's sacrifice. Like every single one of those movies, he has major sacrifices that he has to make, and they really mature him through the trilogy really quickly. And also, like, I just think that like it really does feel like a modern Spider-Man comic, like straight out of one of Dan Slott's runs. So I love the trilogy. I have some Spider-Man on my list as well. And, I think Tom Holland really did kill the role. I just hope he doesn't take too many roles like Uncharted, because I don't want his reputation to become, like somewhat reminiscent of Nick Cage, and then it hurt his, his Spider-Man portrayal in some people's eyes, because I think that might happen.
I liked Homecoming. It's not on my list, but it's up there. To me, my gripe with Homecoming has always been just the duality of Peter Parker Spider-Man and how he fit into the MCU. There was an interview actually with Andrew Garfield about the Amazing Spider-Man films and the potential of bringing Garfield into the MCU. And he said that of all the Avengers, the only character that Spider-Man would be friends with is Captain America. And he would find Iron Man being over the top and pretty much the physical embodiment of everything that he's not.
That's so funny.
I loved that explanation because he understood the characters. He understood all of that. And basically, Iron Man is like a good guy version of his arch nemesis, right? So I saw his explanation of it. And then I saw what they did with the MCU. And they were like, oh, he's going to be essentially Iron Man Jr. He's going to just be like always like wanting to be Tony. Tony's his idol. And I'm like, it's as a longtime comic fan, that's kind of a betrayal to the characterization, because Peter was always struggling, and then he has this benefactor who comes in and just kind of, here's the suit, here's all this cool stuff, here's all this stuff. And I was like, all right, I'll sit through it. And Homecoming did a good job of fixing a lot of that for me, especially with taking the suit away halfway through and all of that. Like, that was good. Far From Home was a step backwards, but to me, No Way Home is one of my top 10 movies, just because of my love for the other two Spider-Mans, and it was just exactly what I needed it. But in terms of Homecoming was, to me, it was weird, because the first appearance we saw of Holland in Civil War felt like a different Spider-Man than what we saw in Homecoming and beyond.
Agreed.
So
agreed.
I liked what they did with it, but I also felt like there was some kind of a weird shakeup in continuity. So that's why it's not higher on my list. Like, obviously, he has a different room now. He's got a different apartment. He's got a bunk bed for some reason. Like, I didn't understand how that was a thing. I was like, why is his... Out of the course of 6 months, like, his whole life has moved around, and it looks like he's lived in this one for a while. So this is weird. It just felt like continuity-wise, it was a little weird.
Do you think that the next trilogy of Spider-Man is going to be more grounded? Do you think he's going to team up with the Fantastic Four and they're kind of fill the Iron Man
It
role?
has to be, right? I
I
mean, at
think
the
so
end
too.
of No Way Home, he's essentially a high school dropout getting his GED. He's going to be probably working for the Daily Planet trying to make his rent. His suit is 100% homemade now because
Yeah.
the tech in the other suit doesn't recognize him anymore. Like, there's so many things about it that I'm like, this is the Spider-Man I was waiting for. We got 3 movies that turned into an origin. Now we're getting comic book Spider-Man. But then back to my biggest issue with Homecoming and the new trilogy as a whole was it felt like Peter Parker was based more on Miles Morales as a character from the comics than he was actually Peter Parker. Because
That's an interesting point.
Everything on the first set of the Ultimate Spider-Man comics with Miles in it, that's what we had here. Like, you had Ned being the guy in the chair. That didn't exist ever in the comics except for Miles having his guy in the chair. They just renamed all the secondary characters for this movie and then gave them names of comic book characters from Peter's world, not Miles's world. It was like, I know this story, but this is Miles's story.
Really good point.
And that's why I don't want, and like, I would love, and I mean, this might be a reach for, I don't know if they would do it because of like how much capital those 3 draw. I would love if Ned and MJ sat out the first 2 films and let Peter, and I would love for Peter to befriend 2 new people, maybe Harry Osborn. I think that would be awesome if we got Harry Osborn.
Introduce Harry and Gwen, introduce those 2, and then have him go through community college with Harry and Gwen, and then Gwen dies, and then MJ comes back into his life. Boom. There you go.
Dude, that
Tell me
really
that I want
awesome.
that trilogy.
And then give us 3 more movies. Okay.
Just keep it going.
I do think the Fantastic Four Spider-Man team up is inevitable. You know, and I also think, and I've said this before, like, I really am curious to see what they're going to do with Fantastic Four, just because, you know, they're saying it's going to be different. I'm sure they know it has to be different because they've never had a, you know, successful Fantastic Four movie yet, and there's just so much Spider-Man and Fantastic Four teaming up in the comics. But like, I think it might help the Fantastic Four movie, but I don't think it would help what real fans want to see from Spider-Man.
I mean, it'd be a little fun to see the Amazing Bagman on screen for like at least 5 minutes.
That would be hilarious.
That would be hilarious.
All right, guys. So we are at number 9. So Taylor, we're gonna start with you, bro. What is your number 9?
My number 9 is actually Endgame, Avengers Endgame. It's not higher on my list for just because of the fact that I love all these other films, but Endgame to me, aside from its myriad of plot devices and continuity head scratcher moments, it was a lot of fun, and it was also, it was a movie that really showed us the stakes. Aside from the fact that there was some weird, like I said, plot stuff and head scratchy stuff, because if you play with time travel and then you take villains out of that timeline and then kill them in your timeline, that means there's a timeline where they never existed. So why aren't we following that timeline now? Because that timeline sounds working. So it's like, I had some headaches with that movie, but I really loved just so many of those moments in that movie where the heroes got to be the heroes, and there was a lot of breathing room. There's a lot of fun stuff. Didn't really care much for Fat Thor or Bro Thor or whatever they called him. I thought that was very hokey, but I did really love when he got when he powered up again, and he had that like the awesome Viking look with the braids and everything. I'm like, oh, that's super cool. But it's really hard to not acknowledge the fact that Captain America picked up that hammer and just went nuts. It was so cool to see. So that's my number 9.
All right. Yo, by the way, that moment is forever stamped as probably like a top 3 greatest moment in MC history. When that hammer goes in the air, you know right where it's going. You know where it's going.
As soon as Thor's laying down and the axe is coming, and you see the hammer lift up, I'm like, oh, Captain America! And like, I started getting excited.
Oh my gosh. In theaters, everybody just yelled. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is a moment to remember.
It's still so cool rewatching it. Like, it's crazy, you know. And when Thor says, I knew he could do it.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's bring back. I'm reminiscing over here. Oh my god! All right, comic cuts.
Oh, I feel like it's kind of boring because we just went over this one, but I put Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming, for
Yeah.
Well, we don't have to
similar
talk
reasons.
about it, so we all just give us your sense,
Yeah,
and we can just keep going.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah, we'll just skip it. I gave my piece on it. We all gave our piece on it. So Stevie, what do you got?
All right. So my 10th. Oh, sorry. So my ninth is Avengers 1.
Mhm.
I honestly I don't. It isn't because it's bad or anything. It's just the other films I just love so much. I had a hard time kind of putting other. I think that I believe that Avengers 1 is like obviously kind of the start of the crazy run that they went on like afterwards. But Loki, freaking Loki. To see someone that I kind of saw as a B-list character make himself into this like A-list freaking Lex Luthor, like a mythical Lex Luthor character, had me going crazy. And there and like the way that Loki commanded on the screen was just something that I really have never seen from a bad guy on screen since like since like I don't even know, but also seeing the Avengers just like sit and like interact because before that, I mean, I grew up watching, Christopher Reeves, Michael Keaton's Batman, and like, one of my dreams was like to see them actually like interact and talk. So seeing like a bunch of heroes in one universe interact and talk, it was kind of like shell shocking for me. And I was kind of in awe. And having Samuel Jackson play Nick Fury is one of the most perfect castings in superhero history that doesn't get talked about enough. He is perfect.
By the way, do you know that in the first Ultimate series, when Nick Fury is talking about who he would want to play him, he says Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
They
Amazing.
went in a very roundabout way because when they first did the Ultimates, they based the character off of Sam Jackson. They made the reference of who should play me in a movie. It should be Sam Jackson. And then when they got to the point of making Iron Man, they're like, "Hey, Sam Jackson."
Right, perfect.
That is crazy.
And it really does look exact. I mean, in the comics, it's Samuel L. Jackson, and that came out in like I think like 2002 or 2004.
I was in high school. Let me see when they first, because then when they first put him out, his character didn't really look like it because they first introduced him in I think one of the X-Men comics.
Oh, okay.
But after it was like he just looked but as soon as they put him in the Ultimates, he was based on Sam Jackson. It was like Ultimate Nick Fury was always black, but the first appearance wasn't quite him. He looked more like Wesley Snipes. But then they second appearance he was Sam Jackson 100%.
Yeah,
right. I never read the Ultimate X-Men, so I wouldn't know from that. But
they're so good. Like they're really cool. I think
they do look cool.
I think Marvel should base the comics, the movies, off of that if they want to do something different than what Fox did.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Smart play.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, I mean, like Avengers, actually, I'm pretty sure it came out on my birthday as well. So I mean, like that movie for me was just a freaking like staple in just the start of the quality. I actually thought Thanos was going to be in that film, to be honest. So I was a little like when I was a kid, like I was kind of upset that Thanos didn't like pop up in the film. But the hinting, so like Avengers gave us so much, but also offered so much, and just seeing like Hawkeye suit up. I never thought that I would see Hawkeye wear purple, and we got to see Hawkeye in purple. It was just like, and a lot of people don't talk about Captain America's suit. A lot of people roast that suit. That is one of my favorite Captain America suits ever. I'm not going to lie.
And also that Coulson line when he's like, I think I forget the exact line, but I think traditional is what people need right now. Like, and Coulson just being like a diehard Captain America fan was awesome. And
yes.
It was sad when he died, but like it gave that movie so much heart. And I think that it also set up the a major like benchmark for the Avengers movies, like the battle scene at the end when Iron Man flew into the wormhole. and also pat himself on the back for it in Age of Ultron. But like, that battle scene was amazing, and when that movie came out, like it was like nothing anyone's ever seen before. So yeah, it's on my list though. But yeah,
Exactly. And like this might sound dumb, but like Superhero Squad, like to me, like that's one of the most hilarious shows I've ever watched in my life. And the hella carrier, that was one of like my favorite things like in the freaking show. And like when we got and like when I and like when like because don't you know how like Cap was like while walking on and then it just like flies in the air. I actually bust out laughing like during that scene because it just reminded me of like just Superhero Squad and that show. So yeah, this movie is freaking amazing. Okay, all right, so let's get to number 8. Okay, number 8, we are getting thin. Okay, we're going to start with comic cuts. What is your number 8, homie?
I'm glad no one's said it yet, but Guardians of the Galaxy. I love that movie. I thought that, first of all, when the MCU does something that's like in space, I feel like they crush it every time. Like I didn't know much about the Guardians of the Galaxy when that movie came out. And I absolutely loved it. I also really loved the second one. It was hard for me to not put the second one on here. Star-Lord, Drax, Rocket, like just the chemistry between them was like nothing else. And I thought Ronan was great. I wish that there's sometimes my one complaint though about like that movie, and it's not an uncommon issue I have with the MCU. Sometimes I think they kill off really good villains when they could have done more with them, and I think that was the one issue I had with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But like just seeing that team come together, learning about like Nova Corps, just it was awesome.
Yeah, the Guardians is actually in my top 4. So it's definitely a movie that I love. I love the soundtrack. I love the way the music helps tell the story too. I thought that was such a cool touch.
Great point.
One of the things that I really like about James Gunn as a director is the fact that he uses his music to also convey emotions, and it's not like how it was with Iron Man, where like you just get pumped up because there's AC/DC playing. Like each song is selected specifically to help tell that story. And that's where I thought was such a fantastic way of adding more subtext. And like you said, yes, losing Ronan as quickly as we did, that sucked. Seeing him again a couple more times the MCU was all right, but I thought that version of Ronan should have kept going around because that was the extremist Ronan, the violent Ronan. It was also one of the first times in the MCU where you actually had a villain kill someone so mercilessly, like with the hammer, and then just draining his blood into the thing. I'm like, okay, this is badass. Cool.
Yeah,
it was very unique. I love that movie to pieces.
Same, bro. Guardians is a great film. I mean, like James Gunn is just not afraid to give you something very colorful and very different from what we have seen. And like just to think that he took a superhero group that a lot of people didn't really know about, like a lot of like just regular casual Marvel fans didn't know about them, and James Gunn introduced this group of heroes in the most perfect way ever, and I mean, and not to even talk about, the castings that are just spot on with Zoe and Chris Pratt and Dave. I mean, great film. So
yeah. By the way, about the music, it's funny because I love the music in that movie so much. And when I was riding home from the movies, I forget what the song was, but it was the first song. When Star-Lord's dancing.
Come and get your love, yeah.
And it was
that's my freaking ringtone, bro.
That's a great ringtone.
Yeah, it's my ringtone.
But it was good, but it didn't hit the same as it did when it was in the movie.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Even though
the movie was fantastic, and I also loved how they brought it back in is it Endgame that they did it?
Yeah.
That scene was fun. Seeing it from the other side where he's just singing awkwardly to himself,
and they were just like, "What an idiot!"
Yeah. Oh gosh, what a funny scene. Okay, all right, Taylor, what is your number 8, bro?
My number 8 is actually Spider-Man: No Way Home. I felt like for a lot of the time for the MCU Spider-Man, it was like very much kid gloves for a lot of his stuff. Like, especially with the previous one, like Spider-Man: Homecoming was great, but I mean, it felt like a lot of the movie was setting up something bigger, you know, and they had the Scorpion cameo, they had the Vulture, they both get captured, but and then the second one, I don't know, I felt they just grossly misused Mysterio, and it also felt like that movie was like, oh look, another villain who hates Tony Stark. Oh, cool.
Mhm.
Right.
But when No Way Home came about, and you had like, let's crack open the multiverse because Spider-Man is being selfish. Like that was probably, I thought that was pretty fun, and I loved seeing all the other villains come back. I loved seeing the other Spider-Man. Like that was just absolutely fantastic. But they didn't even like pull any punches. The death scene with Aunt May was like, this is finally so like the studio finally treating Spider-Man correctly.
Right.
I'm ready for this Spider-Man to like, Spider-Man needed in the comics, he's mopey, he's whiny, whatever. You can say what you want, but the reason he's like that is because everything in his life is crap. And being Spider-Man is the best part. And that's because he also has that responsibility because of all the damage that has happened in his life. Like, this was the first time that Spider-Man felt like, okay, Tony's gone. No more person there. Okay, Happy doesn't remember him. Okay, that sucks. Aunt May is dead. But he met 2 other Spider-Man who showed him like, hey, don't fall into our pitfalls. But like, there was so much about that movie, especially the second half, that I just like, here is Spider-Man that he should have been the entire time he was in the MCU.
Yeah,
I agree.
You know, I love that movie. I do wish that there were some villains from Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe in it. That was my one complaint. But like, whenever I watch that movie, like, it's a haymaker of an MCU movie.
Yeah.
It goes really deep. Again, like, big sacrifice for Peter. But I also want to call something out on Far From Home. Like, I liked it when I saw it in the theaters, but like when I rewatch it, there's just not enough Spider-Man in it. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't even like put on the suit till like the end of the movie. And so, but I think No Way Home was huge. Like you said, being selfish with becoming, he was being selfish for being Spider-Man, and that's why they opened up the multiverse, going through the mirror dimension with, Doctor Strange, and kind of introducing everyone to like how crazy the multiverse could be. And don't get me wrong, I think everyone loved No Way Home, but I also think like if Phase 4 was a little more tied together, I think No Way Home would get even more praise from the fans.
So
Because Phase
yeah.
4, we only had 2 movies that were about the multiverse, and apparently that's what the whole point is. So
Right,
it's like
right.
a little bit more cohesion, everybody.
Exactly.
A little bit more.
Agreed, bro. So this is a funny situation because we have the same number 8. My number 8, yeah, my number 8 is also No Way Home. Obviously, we get a super deep story, and obviously we get Toby and etc. My gripe though is that it really did feel like, and I actually we actually Taylor, we when we reviewed Ant-Man, we got bombarded by another person that we know who flipped out about the Ant-Man film, and then we ended up having a convo about Spider-Man No Way Home, and he was saying how bad the first kind of 2 acts of how bad the first 2 acts were, and I don't want to say it's bad, but when you know that Toby and them are coming, it is kind of slow, and the pacing and like what is happening in the film isn't bad, but the pacing of it to me is just god awful and terrible. But I will say, this was my most favorite Spider-Man music of all time. The music that is played when Aunt May dies, and it kind of feels like your ears are caving in, like the way, like just the way that the music is. Like, don't you know how like
Yeah.
if you're like watching a film in the army and like if a grenade goes off, you can hear their ears get like muffed. It kind of gave that same feel when his aunt May died, like everything's zoning in on him and like his emotions. I also loved how violent this was because Spider-Man is supposed to get his butt beat, and he got. I mean, oh man, the Defoe gave him the work. You know what I mean? And
that hallway fight scene with him and Defoe going through the floor,
bro,
That was
that was
crazy.
cool. And I love that Tom Holland specifically requested that they incorporate some of the movements from the Spider-Man PS4 game to make Spider-Man seem more agile and more violent. And I was like,
yes,
perfect. Let's do this.
Yeah.
yes. I also love the way Aunt May dies. I love that we don't clearly see that Aunt May was like stabbed by his glider. It just kind of looks like he just knocked her over, and you know a lot of fans didn't like that, but I love that idea. And then the ending. I mean, when Peter just gets angry and rageful and legit beats the snot out of Green Goblin, and then of course Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is the one that stops him because he's been down that road of rage and knows how it feels. I thought it was that was perfect. But Jerry, I do agree that I wanted Mysterio to be in this. I thought that he was going to kind of play a bigger part in this film. Like I thought he was going to be a part of this whole sabotaging Spider-Man. So I was kind of a little upset because I thought that Mysterio was like the only good thing that came out of Far From Home. And I was kind of theorizing that we were going to get a variant that is the actual comic book version of Mysterio, not the freaking hologram one. So that was a little letdown for me. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Number 8. All right, fellas. We are at number 7. Surprise me. Let's see. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. All right. Comic cuts. What is your number 7?
No Way Home.
Oh my god.
My number 7 is actually the first Avengers movie. So I don't, unless you have something different, we've already talked about both of these.
Yeah. No, I don't. Well, I don't know what Stevie's got. Stevie, do you have anything different?
Thor: Dark World.
You know, I respect putting Dark World in the top 10. I really do. And I know we didn't get to it yet, and you said it's at the top of your list, but I also love the first Thor. I think the first 2 Thor are better than 3 and 4.
Yes, I love Thor: Dark World.
I like it a lot. I do. I thought the inclusion of the Dark Elves was such a fun way, especially that whole fight just near the end of the movie. I thought was really cool. My biggest gripe with that movie as a whole was how different the world looked from the first movie to the second movie.
Yeah.
Like Asgard, they fleshed it out more, but it felt like in the first movie, Asgard was essentially like heaven, and the second movie was like, okay, Asgard's a little bit more grimy too. And I'm like, okay, I can get behind this, I guess. But I didn't really care. That aspect, and just as Odin himself, I did not like how in the first movie he was like proud of his son for finding love, and in the second movie he's like, she's a human, get her out of here. And I'm like, Odin, no, you were so happy for him last week. What are you doing?
Right.
So other than that, I really liked it a lot. The humor was still there. It was a lot of fun, but
yeah. So bro, like we are like the opposite, because I didn't like the fact that Asgard was so empty. I wasn't really a big fan of that. Like there were just no people. Like in a Thor 1, it felt like a too good to be true, and maybe that's how Asgard was supposed to feel. But I kind of liked like the idea that we had more people in Asgard, and that it was, like some dirty areas, I guess, that you can say.
No. I mean, you definitely had a lot of people. Like in the first movie, if you're watching it, like I guess on a big enough screen, maybe it's just the fact of how it was done, but I'll talk about it more later.
Mm-hmm.
The throne room that they used in the second movie was a different throne room, and the third movie. Each movie had a different throne room, apparently.
Yeah.
Like I guess Asgard just has a bunch of throne rooms. But in that first scene, and when he's walking down with all those people, you see that this throne room is essentially kind of like part of this like open pavilion. And let me find you a picture because this is the yeah, here we go. I'm just going to throw it up so you can bring it up. But in that scene, if you actually watch it and notice, there are a ton of people there. But I guess maybe just the way the camera was at, the framing of it all, it looks like there's less people than the second movie, but there was like from the longer shots, the wider shots, there was like cities worth of people scattered in the background. So I think it was just the way they filmed that first movie. It just felt like, yeah, it was a little empty, but it's also most of the movie spent inside the castle.
True.
So that's why it was, I'm like, okay, yeah, there wouldn't be random civilians walking around the throne room. Like, makes sense. But I definitely know what you mean by like showing the training areas, showing the lower cities, things like that. Like it made more sense to make Asgard feel lived in than feeling like it did in the first movie. I get that, yeah.
I agree. I was going to show the throne room really quick before we switch up. And guys, that is the throne room.
Yeah, if you look in the outer corners on each side, there's still hundreds and thousands of people outside of the main pavilion.
Oh yeah, if you look over here, true.
Yeah.
So, and especially if you look at the scene leading up to this one where he's walking down, there's just people everywhere, but it's really like blink and you miss it kind of a shot. So they didn't do a good job showing how many people were in Asgard in that first movie. But there was a couple scenes where you're like, okay, it's like New York style, like that's how many people live here.
Yeah.
So
it's a great shot too, with everyone in gold and Thor just standing out with that red robe.
Beautiful. Yeah, so, but yeah, man, I love Thor Dark World because, I mean, shockingly, Jane is honestly one of my favorite, I would say, like, superhero girlfriends. I have a thing for scientists. I don't know why. I just think it's very, like, attractive, and I just think that Jane was just so cute with, like, you know, her little sciencey self, just, like, running around, just, like, schooling everyone. But I really do love just Malekith, bro. Malekith is one of my favorite villains, like in the MCU, and I thought he was done dirty. To be honest, I wasn't really a big fan of the way that he died, but to me at least, Malekith was very like menacing, like just by the way he looked and by the way he talked and the way he fought. He was a very menacing villain, and I just love the idea that we were kind of like exploring more of the mythos of like just the Asgardian people and who their enemies are. And I love the idea that they went back. You know what I mean? So sorry, bro. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying, speaking of Malekith, and like the one thing I also think they did a really good job with in the Dark World was hyping him up via Odin's backstory on Malekith. You know, like that just made him seem like really menacing and like bigger than life, because obviously Odin is Diesel and been around forever. So if you're gonna hear Odin talk about how bad someone is, like, you better believe it.
Exactly. But then it blows me because then in Thor Ragnarok we get another freaking character that Odin defeated before. It's like, okay, so is Thor going to have his own bag out, or are we just going to keep just going down this road of fighting villains that Odin already beat? Great. But yeah, so
I have so many issues with Ragnarok, and I think the decision
let's talk about it.
Make Hela not Loki's daughter was kind of stupid. Like, oh, it's Loki's older sister. I'm like, no, it's his daughter. It's his illegitimate love child that he doesn't want anyone to know about. Like, give us that story.
Yeah.
Like, they tend to like treat the audience like, yeah, these characters are thousands of years old. They probably have kids, so it's not weird. Like, also that giant wolf that was underneath Asgard, that's Loki's kid too. Like, let us have that weirdness. Like, that's part of what makes so much of the mythology so fun, is that Loki's having babies. Like,
right. Loki was out there.
And like Loki's such an integral character to the MCU. He's the first Avengers bad guy. He introduced Kang, and so I just think that like the more you could like make, the better you can make Loki. Like, go with it. But I will say, like, Thor Ragnarok, when I saw that movie, like I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as everyone else, but in hindsight, I think that movie is the most problematic movie of the MCU, and I think it's to blame for a lot of the problems we have today. I think it's to blame for people,
Ragnarok?
oh yeah, everything's a
sure.
comedy now. Everything's a comedy because most people didn't like Thor. Most people didn't like Thor: Dark World, so they brought in Taika Waititi. They made Thor: Ragnarok a comedy. Most people that didn't like the Thor movies before loved Ragnarok. They doubled down on it and they made the worst MCU movie of all time, Thor: Love and Thunder. And they were like, you know what? Ragnarok worked. Why don't we put more comedy in everything? And now we're getting a bunch of sub-mediocre movies and people are like, oh, it's too funny. It's too funny. Well, maybe you should have said you like Thor and Thor: Dark World, because then we got Ragnarok and then we got Love and Thunder. So again, I know I'm always blaming the fans, but I'm blaming the fans again.
I watched Love and Thunder the day it dropped on Disney Plus because I didn't want to see it in theaters because I saw it and I'm like, I'm not going to spend my money on it. We'll see. I watched it at midnight. The moment it dropped, I put it on and I'm like, my wife asked me the next morning, how was it? I'm like, it was frustrating. And she's like, why? I'm like, because there's so many things in it that I did like. Like I loved the intro with Christian Bale and his daughter. Like that was peak MCU kind of stuff. I'm like, I loved it. But then so much of it went wrong. And I'm like, there was even a part in the middle of the movie where it looked like they filmed it on like a handheld camera and it's a rom-com that looked like the budget was $50.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? I'm like, no, I'm not even exaggerating. Like it didn't feel like it was even in, it was like, looked like TV soap opera stuff. And she's like, what? I'm like, I don't know. But
yeah, that one hurt.
There was so many things about it that just didn't work to me. And the overuse of humor and the grave misuse of Christian Bale, it's like
another one wasted, man. Another one wasted. Like, oh, that one hurts.
But the scene at the beginning of the Guardians was pretty great. So
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And then like the ending of Thor: Dark World, like the ending with Loki on the throne, like I was like bought in at that point. And then obviously Ragnarok just dishonors it so hard. But I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna get mad. It's all good. But yeah, so Thor: Dark World. Okay, we are going to number.
Well, I think we skipped Avengers.
No, we talked about Avengers.
Okay,
but we didn't talk about my number 7. My number 7 was actually Black Panther.
I'm sorry, bro.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, bro.
Was Black Panther. We talked about it briefly. I also loved this movie. My only reasoning for not putting it higher on my list, I think, was the weird CGI crunch in the third act, where the fight that they had on that railway just seemed like cartoony.
What do you mean?
But
when you say like cartoony?
If you watch the rest of the movie, the CGI is fantastic. But then when they're fighting, when it's like the Golden Jaguar versus Black Panther, and they're fighting between the shipments, it just looked like faces were superimposed in like really bad CGI. And I was like, okay, something happened late in the production that made this scene have to get redone. What happened here? And it like kind of takes you away from that scene. But
can I ask you guys something about this? Sorry. I just because you guys are like my like mentors in this game, right? Like I am like the young gun. Do you think that T'Challa should have just been single in this movie?
So T'Challa having an on again, off again girlfriend was kind of a weird thing for me. I felt like, but to me, like T'Challa's true queen was Storm. So like having an ex-girlfriend, I thought was weird. I'm like, no, no one is his equal, so no one's gonna be his equal until he meets the mutant goddess. Like that's how this is supposed to be. Having some random girl from his past somehow be his on again, off again girlfriend, and then later his like baby mama was like kind of felt disservicing to the character.
Yeah.
So I thought it's funny you brought it up because until I rewatched that movie like last year, I forgot that he even had a girlfriend in the movie.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, if that answers the question, I think it's kind of unnecessary if I'm not remembering that,
Yeah.
But like But Taylor, I agree with you about the like that railroad or train, whatever it was, scene. Like the CGI definitely did look weird in that scene. And I'm usually not one to complain about CGI, but I agree, it wasn't good.
Yeah, it's like there's certain moments in the MCU where the CGI is almost flawless, and then there's some moments where you're like, "What is that?" Like in Civil War, when Tony takes his helmet off at the airport, and I'm like, "Wow, what the hell is happening here?" Like,
Yeah,
the CGI just did not mesh well. But then you have like the same directors just a few years prior with Winter Soldier, and that movie is hard to say anything looked bad in that movie because it just looked gorgeous all the way through. So it's like,
so good.
What happened when Marvel changed some things? Like, there's clearly some retouching scenes. There's some pickups that happened. They moved some stuff around. Something happened with the CGI here. So,
Dude, I'm watching it right now. The way the train is going by, oh my god, this looks bad. Oh my god.
It was such a
love that
cool
movie.
scene, but it did not look good.
So cartoony. Oh my gosh.
it's pretty rough. But I don't know. I mean, for every crappy Black Panther scene like that, you get like Marvel pulling out Infinity War, and the whole movie just looks gorgeous. So
Yeah.
I don't know. They need to hire more CGI workers because I feel like they have the same staff just running on fumes.
Yeah.
And they're not happy about it. We know that.
They're not happy about it.
Yeah. Not gonna
I've
lie. I
talked to
also
people
don't like the
that
camera angle.
work
Oh
on it,
really?
and they said that they don't want to work on Marvel films. Period.
Are you
They
for real,
petition
bro?
out of those contracts.
Oh, they can't get it. They want out, but they're still in because they're on a contract.
Well, some of them will be like, if it's like a X or Y company, they're like, hey, so we have this contract coming in from Marvel. We need this many people. Put in your bid for your shift. And then some people will be like, I don't even want to be on that movie at all. And they'll try to like find
What?
other work to keep them busy so they don't have to work for Marvel,
Wow.
which is pretty crazy.
That's deep.
Yeah. Because you'd think, like, I mean, if you're in the CGI business, like putting a Marvel movie on your resume is probably like, I mean, there's probably not a better brand to have on your resume in the CGI business.
That's crazy, bro.
It's something else.
Oh, Marvel. Okay. What a great. Oh wait, and also, bro, I do not like the camera shots of that final battle either. I don't like how like the camera's like panning like over top of them while they're fighting. That looks so unattractive.
It really felt like a different director came in and did that whole scene, and it didn't work. So that was just my one issue with that movie, was that last 20-minute fight just felt disjointed from the rest of the movie.
Oh,
I
man.
will say one more thing though, with Killmonger, like they did, even though, and I know he appeared for a brief second in Wakanda Forever, but like, obviously he had his real exit in Black Panther. They did not waste Killmonger. Like, that was an amazing performance. They got, they got their money's worth out of Michael B. Jordan for that. That was fire.
Oh, it was so good. So
Amazing.
good. Yeah. He's one of those villains that to me, he felt like almost like a Magneto type villain where you're like, I get him.
Right.
If he wins, I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah.
But he needs to be stopped.
It's funny you say that because Magneto is like my favorite villain in possibly all of Marvel. He's definitely my favorite mutant, like by far. And when I every time I watch X-Men First Class, which is my favorite X-Men movie, I root for Magneto. Best one by far. And
they shot themselves in the foot by not giving us that perfect Magneto costume in the next movie.
Yeah.
Yes,
really
bro.
good.
Yes.
Every time that scene happens, he's like, "You can call me Magneto." I'm like, "Oh,
so badass."
Do it again.
Fassbender was so good in that role. Oh my gosh.
He's an amazing actor. Which, by the way, I've always wondered why. Like, I guess maybe it's hard to bring like Fox X-Men actors into the MCU in a different role, but like it feels like, and I've said this before, every actor wants to be in the MCU. And like a big name like Fassbender, who feels like he crushes every movie role he does. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like they could easily find a good place for him in the MCU. But if they're holding him out for Magneto for when they do bring in the X-Men,
They're
I'm
bringing
all
in
for it.
McKellen. That's the thing. That's the problem, is that they're not even bringing us the young Magneto that we want. We're getting Ian McKellen. So
Is he? But like, isn't he technically? So when he got signed over, is he technically still in contract or no?
he would be if they want to recast the role. They'd have to pay out his contract.
Oh, okay.
That's why they're bringing back the other Magneto, because they can still
that contract's done.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But they're doing that for Deadpool 3, so it's fine.
Yeah. Give me Hugh Jackman any day of the week, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Fox
so
got a lot
number
right with
6, right?
X-Men.
Yes, we are on to number 6. All right, we are going to start with Taylor. What is your number 6, homie?
Actually, number 6 was my was Black Panther. I think I said the Avengers and Black Panther in rank 7.
It's
So,
all good.
That's why I thought we skipped you with it. I
thought we did too.
we
And I was
skipped
looking
you.
at this, I'm like, did we skip it? Because we didn't talk about Black Panther. But yeah,
Bet.
Right.
Black Panther was my number 6.
Okay.
We have the same 6, so I'm not even going to go into it. Comic cuts.
I
What's
have
your 6, bro?
Avengers for number 6.
All right.
What's number 5?
All right, number 5. Let's work our way. All right. Taylor, what is?
First?
Yeah. I'll go first. All right. My number 5 is Iron Man 1.
Mine is number 5 as well.
That's so funny.
All right, well, let's talk about it, boys. Let's go.
Okay.
I think that Iron Man 1 is the most perfect film to start the MCU. I mean, it was a crazy, because I mean, I know that like a lot of people take like our DJ's past into like why did this role was so amazing, but I mean, I was a kid, so I didn't really know. To me, like as a kid, and to like all of my friends, RDJ was who we wanted to be, the guy that was with the hot chicks that had all of like the cash, like, you know, that was kind of like what we wanted to be like, to be like the Iron Man. But you know, going into it, that's kind of what we thought it was going to be. And then when we watched the movie, this dude is literally going through it, you know, and kind of seeing him like in literal bondage and stuff like that, and then seeing that his tech was being used to induce harm onto others, which then leads him to want to shut down everything, was a very interesting take. And I mean, there's no other man that could play Iron Man like Robert Ken. So I mean, yeah.
I grew up with the 90s Iron Man cartoon, and they never really explained how Iron Man's motivation was to become a hero. And seeing this movie and like you said, this whole like, my weapons are now killing people, this needs to stop. Like, that turn in the character was the first time I'd seen in like the history of the comics reading, the TV shows, of an Iron Man that actually legitimately wanted to be a better person. And I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be unique, because this is not the Iron Man that was captured by the Viet Cong during Vietnam War. This is not the Iron Man that, like, whatever story they tell, this is Iron Man who's caught by a radical group of terrorists who are using his weapons to promote terror. And the Easter eggs aplenty with the 10 rings. And like, don't get me wrong, they definitely messed up the 10 rings in Iron Man 3, and then they kind of fixed it in Shang-Chi, but they're still, like, that first time you see the 10 rings, it was really menacing. And I was like, this is lots of fun. I like this a lot. And the fact that Obadiah Stane went from being just a crappy character to like a really good villain was really fun. And it was Jeff Bridges. I mean, can't go wrong with Jeff Bridges.
I feel like every role in this movie, you know, was crushed. You know, Pepper Potts, but like, you know, first of all, I didn't read comics when I first saw this movie. So, but I was always like a big movie guy, always loved superheroes. So like, you know, I saw the trailers. I was like, this looks sick, you know? And I remember when I saw it, I think I saw it like the weekend it came out. And when Tony Stark was in the fucking cave and he built an Iron Man suit to get himself out of it, that was like one of the most badass things I've ever seen in a movie. And I just knew we were in for a wild ride. And, you know, Tony Stark was cool as shit. I also think Obviously there's a lot that went into Robert Downey Jr. taking the role. MCU is kind of the house that he built, but I do think that it really helped his performance in that like it wasn't like we've seen him in a ton of movies in recent years, and there was no typecasting to be had, and he absolutely hit it out of the park. I didn't have the preconceived notion of Iron Man like comics, or I'd never watched the animated show. The most I knew about Iron Man was there was a Bape Iron Man sneaker that like I really wanted that was out of my price range. But I thought like that was so cool. And now looking that I do read comics, like I've never read an old Iron Man comic. I on my list though is Demon in a Bottle. Like I'm sober, so I always want to read that story. I just sometimes I have a tough time getting behind comics that are like a bit like older. I like the more modern stuff. But that movie, like was so successful. The MCU had hype just from that movie alone, and it cemented Iron Man as my favorite character in the MCU. Period, which is crazy to say because I also really love Spider-Man, but and it's funny because like in the comics, like when you look at Marvel Comics and their sales, like Spider-Man is always the number one character. Captain America's usually up there too, and even now, like Iron Man comics don't reign that high, but when it comes to the MCU, I think he's most people's favorite character.
Yeah. And it's 100% Robert Downey Jr. because all of his legal issues, all of his issues prior to that movie, he was pretty much blacklisted in Hollywood. And then he came out of nowhere and became one of the richest guys in Hollywood because he made the right business decision to jump on this movie that Tom Cruise abandoned because he didn't like how it was going, which is insane. The background behind what made this movie exist is insane. Yep. And I love so much that they made this work and they gave Robert the free reign to make Iron Man his character, which was way better than what the comic book version of Iron Man was, because comic book Iron Man was like an alcoholic Howard Hughes and he wasn't that fun. This one was, he's eccentric, he's sarcastic, he's a genius, but he's also kind of a douche. Like he's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Definitely a douche.
I love it. And they definitely made a fantastic story arc with Tony Stark throughout the entire MCU. Just every appearance he's in, you can see it's changing.
Exactly. It seems like they took a bunch of good parts from a lot of other characters because in the ways that he's smart, he kind of like reminds me of like Reed a little bit, but then he also feel like I get some Bruce Wayne out of him as well, but then also get some kind of like cockiness as well. So it's kind of weird how like Feige kind of seemed like he was drawing certain like parts out of each guy. And one of the things that I do love about the like Iron Man, and I don't know if they did this on purpose, but this is at least the way that I see it. Everything that goes wrong in the movie before Tony Stark always corrects in the next film. Like when you watch Infinity War and you see all of the stuff in his suit, which is my favorite suit. I have no idea why they went with that last suit in the game. Pissed me off. But anyways, everything is like really
that
yellow. I did not like it.
It was. I didn't like the too much red in Infinity War. I thought the breakup with the yellow was fantastic. To me, just the final Endgame suit was my favorite Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
I like that Endgame suit, but what I don't like is I feel like it doesn't translate well on action. I'm a big action figure guy, but naturally on social media I'm sure you guys too, with what we all follow, I see a lot of action figure pictures and I appreciate them. I just don't think that suit looks good on an action figure, but I think it looks great in the movies.
Yeah, because and the Infinity War suit to me, just like the combat, and I know like the Endgame suit wasn't really meant for combat, but that's the features of that suit was just beyond me. It was just insane.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, the Iron Man 1 suit will forever be one of the. Will forever be one of the greatest suits of all time. I do like the Iron Man 2 suit as well. I think that's an equal one, but great film.
I think the decision to show you from the ground up the suit being made is what made this movie feel so grounded and so realistic.
Yes.
You have one scene where he's building the arms, one scene where he's trying to fly for the first time. Like, showing the pieces is what made it believable. And then that way, when he's like, "Oh, I can fly now," then boom, now let's just montage of the suit getting drilled onto me. I'm like,
So
okay,
cool.
I can believe this now. I can see it.
Yes. And bro, look. Oh, and look, right? Toby and them, they automatically got the suit. Like, we didn't get the finals. Like, thank God that he didn't build it in the cave. like, I mean, yes, we would have probably went with it, but like, as you just said, bro, it was like it was like kind of like systems that he built and corrected. I mean, this movie is goated.
Yeah,
so Taylor, I love that you said that, because like I debated with Stevie and another co-host we have, Matt, and they are not too big on the Dark Knight trilogy. And what I tried to tell them was, when that movie, because I think we're a bit closer in age, and him and Matt are a little bit younger, but like when the Dark Knight trilogy came out, they had to win over a fan base that wasn't already giant comic book movie fans. And I think Iron Man had the same thing. And that's why, like, having a grounded, realistic origin story and like showing the progression of the character, becoming their alter ego, was so critical to the successes of those movies. And I think I think you nailed it, because Iron Man had it just like Batman Begins did.
And that's the thing. It's like, so Iron Man, it needed to shine because it came out just a couple months before The Dark Knight did. So if you remember that summer, that was the summer where, like, okay, Iron Man, Marvel's finally kicking it off. This is going to be great. I liked it a lot. And then like 3 weeks later, Heath Ledger destroys movie theaters, and just that's what it was. Like, if Iron Man was any less good than what it was, the MCU would have not have been able to recover from the cinematic beatdown that it got in theaters from The Dark Knight. So the fact that they were able to like thrive off of that first movie, that's something else. And you know that movie has to be special because it went toe to toe with a movie that broke $1 billion.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
agreed.
100%.
They were still in theaters.
All right,
at the same time. So
it's crazy.
That is facts. That is facts. Oh gosh. All right. Now we are. It's getting chippy, guys. We're at number 4. I'm not sure.
I didn't give my number 5.
Oh, what's your 5?
Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Oh, this early? Okay.
It was tough. It was tough. But it's. I get, obviously you guys both have it a little bit higher. And it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard to not put it higher, but hey, it still made the top 5. The espionage. I think this movie has some of the best action in any of the MCU. That scene when Captain America is, breaking out of the SHIELD base,
the
elevator, and he jumps off of the plane. Like, first of all, that was taken straight out of the Winter Soldier comic, but it looks so much better in the movie than it did on the comic. So obviously, it was just incredible. I loved what they did with Zola, having Black Widow and Bucky. I also think it's by far the best sequel, number 2 sequel in any of the MCU.
Yeah, if you have to compare any MCU sequel to like Godfather quality, that's The Winter Soldier.
It's great,
but it's also much higher on my list. So I feel like I want to talk about it when we get to that point.
Yeah,
way higher on my list.
Okay.
Yeah, same. I am saving that because I have it very, very, very high. All right, but wow, number 5. That's crazy, bro. Oh my gosh, I just can't wait to hear what you have, bro. I can't wait to hear what you have. All right, we're on number 4. Taylor, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is actually the first Guardians of the Galaxy. We did talk about that before. I unapologetically love that movie, and let me see if I can find them.
Hey,
That's it.
Comic Cuts. I love this guy. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's passionate.
Back when they came out, I was lucky enough to get this awesome set of posters from them.
Oh
I
shit.
think this is it. I have a few poster rolls around here. Just the one?
Yeah, I mean that room looks like it has a lot of gems in
bro.
it.
That is how those freaking Mando helmets behind you. I'm about to legit have a nerdgasm.
Yeah, they do look real nice.
It's not that one.
Oh, look.
Where's it?
Jalen said when Winter Soldier was way too early, top 3.
Oh man, he might be. He might not like my top 3.
I actually got a set of art prints for Guardians of the Galaxy, and the prints are just absolutely. Oh, there it is. Found it. It had rolled under the bookshelf.
Oh, man.
But then Disney actually just sent me the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 poster.
Bro.
Oh wow,
The new one.
Dude.
that looks amazing.
So I got that. I'm gonna probably put that up after I see the movie. Like I want to make sure that it's worth my
Smart.
Worth hanging up.
But
With
they
how
sent
things
me
are going
these.
now, smart.
They sent me these many moons ago, and there's like four or five posters in here, but they're all like the character one sheets.
Oh, that's
Dude,
amazing.
oh my gosh,
Star-Lord
bro.
one was pretty rad. I love
love the
here's the-
skies when the MCU goes to space. Like it is so visually
Bro,
pleasing.
that is clean.
Yeah.
that one. Let me see if I can find my favorite one. Is that one? I'll show that one last because that's my favorite one. Then there's one more in here. Yeah, it's 4 posters. It's all comic book art because it was before the movie came out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude,
Oh yeah, like.
that's awesome.
But then my favorite one was this guy, and it was the shot from the movie of Groot.
Bro.
That is amazing.
So I got these so many years ago, and I don't know. They're smaller than regular posters, but I don't want to hang them up unless I frame them. So I'm trying to be like, what do I do with these until then? So they've been sitting in this poster roll for years. Still with I think it's like 2 addresses ago on here. Yeah, 2 addresses ago.
Oh my gosh, bro, that's awesome.
But I love this movie.
Those are great.
Unapologetically, it's so good.
Good.
The soundtrack is actually I still have it on CD, and I still keep it. My son uses it as his alarm because he took my CD player alarm clock.
Oh,
And
that's
that wakes
awesome.
him up.
That's awesome, bro.
It's the same CD
That's-
that's been in there for like 10 years.
Good alarm to put some good vibes on. when you wake
Exactly.
up.
You can never go wrong. That never go
song
wrong
too.
with that. All right. What is your number 4? Wait, what is your number 4 cuts?
Iron Man.
Okay.
You know, I put this up higher just because, for me, my favorite character, the MCU, like we were just saying, wouldn't exist without the success of this movie. And, I don't want to go too big on it because we just spoke a lot about it. But the one thing I will say, this movie was the movie where CGI became next level and became good enough for the MCU to exist. And I don't think that enough people talk about the CGI in Iron Man being an integral key to the success of today's MCU.
It's funny. One of my favorite stories about this movie was that Jon Favreau was adamant about making this movie look real. And part of what they did was implement kind of a mixing of CGI. They wanted to have as much practical effects as they possibly could.
That's interesting.
And
Wow.
let me show you a picture. This was a picture of I interviewed him a little while ago. He's a wonderful guy, but this was the only Iron Man film that actually had practical suit used before the CGI was.
Wow.
And
I'm about to show you guys.
Citrone, the guy who actually was Batman for Ben Affleck, the guy who was actually in the bat suit throughout most of those awesome the warehouse scene in Batman vs Superman, that was this guy, and he was also physically Iron Man in that movie.
Is that Obadiah Stane a stunt double or something?
Yeah, that's a stunt double because they actually in that scene where they were fighting and
on the roof,
he was falling out. There was actually a longer version of that scene where Obadiah actually starts to climb out of the Ironmonger harness and then tries to kill Tony, and then Tony lets him go, and the body falls with the suit. So they actually was a longer stunt that they actually had to cut out.
Damn, that would have been sick.
That's crazy. That would have been awesome if we got to see that.
Yeah. I think you can still see it if you have the Blu-ray or whatever. It's actually shown in the deleted scenes, and it does show some continuity errors without having that scene in there, which is kind of funny.
I hope it's on Disney Plus, because if not, I gotta buy the
I
Blu-ray.
think it is.
Okay.
No, I definitely have a Blu-ray upstairs. I gotta grab it.
I'm physical media all the way, so I have all the physicals for these.
You know,
same, bro.
I'm really pissed because when I bought the PS5, I originally bought the disc version like the second it went up on StockX, and the guy never sent it. StockX was like, "Do you want your money back, or do you want to wait like another 2 weeks until we could?" I'm like, 2 weeks? Fuck that! I want to play it today. So I'm a huge sneaker collector, so I know a lot of resellers. So I was able to get someone to drive one over from New Jersey that night, and he drove it over. And when he got here, he was like, "Oh, by the way, it's no disc." So now I have a PS5 that's discless, and but now that they're easy to get, I think what I'm going to do is just buy one and then sell this,
or just do what normal people do: put one in your bedroom and one in your living room.
Yeah, that actually is a great idea. And
that's what I do with all my extra consoles. Like when I bought the PS4 Pro, I put the regular PS4 in my room, and the Pro went to the living room, and then Then the PS5 became the living room system, and the Pro went to my son's room. So we just play musical chairs with the consoles.
Yeah, everyone wins.
Dude,
I need a physical media because the quality is so much better. It's not even funny.
Yeah. Taylor, I need to get your gamer tag before you hop off so I can add you on PlayStation 5.
I need that too, actually.
Yeah. Quick off topic. Have you played Star Wars Battlefront?
Yeah.
Do you still play Star Wars?
Real quick, I'm going to cut out and go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Go ahead.
I haven't in a while, actually. Right now I'm playing a lot of Destiny. I'm trying to platinum Hogwarts Legacy. I've got a few other challenges to go, but that's what I've been spending a lot of my time on.
Awesome. All right. Now, while we're waiting for him, let's talk about something off topic. And thank you for your gamer tag. Have you been watching Mando?
Yeah, it's so good.
How about that episode 2, man? How about that episode freaking 2?
I had to go onto Twitter to basically publicly shame IGN for saying it was worth a 5 out of 10.
A 5, bro. Oh my goodness.
I was like, first off, what the hell? I had to go right off. Let me see if I can just pull up my tweet because I was pretty mad. I was trying to be nice, but I was also like, I said. So IGN gave the latest Mandalorian episode a 5 out of 10 and complained that it was lighting issues. And I even had Colin Farrell do this, and I'm like, I sat down and watched it on 3 different TVs, a Samsung, an LG, and a Vizio, and had no issues. What is going on? And then I even in the comments kind of elaborated saying that I loved the episode, and one person was like, "Well, it's a little dark." I'm like, "Yeah, but if you're watching it in the middle of the day in your living room with all the light coming in, sure." But you're not supposed to watch movies like that. You're supposed to watch movies in full immersion.
And if you're reviewing it for IGN, you should know that.
Exactly. Let's not forget their She-Hulk episode rankings were 8s, and I was like, bro, okay.
Yeah, She-Hulk was fun, but it wasn't. It was like a 6 out of 10 every episode. It was fun, but it wasn't great.
By the way, that's my problem with all the Ring, and it's not just IGN that's doing that. And when we spoke about this, they put
Rotten Tomatoes claims that Black Panther. I don't know if you've ever gone through Rotten Tomatoes MCU rankings. They're awful. Black Panther is number one, and like I don't know. I just think and IGN. If you ever see anytime they rate anything these days, their comments flame them for it. So I just think that IGN and Rotten Tomatoes have both gone down the drain. And yeah, saying that She-Hulk was good. Anyone that says She-Hulk was good, like I got a problem with it. That movie was the show was awful. Awful. I hope that they kill off She-Hulk. That would be one of the best things they could do.
I like certain parts of She-Hulk. Like I'm not going to be like, oh, it was the best. Like I actually still haven't finished Miss Marvel because I couldn't get into it. It's good, but it's like I'll get in. I'll finish it eventually.
Yeah, we love Miss Marvel. Kamala's the best. She's so cute.
I finished She-Hulk. I did think some of the gags. I think the final episode was probably the ballsiest thing they've ever done in the MCU. Like breaking the fourth wall to that extent was like, oh my god, they're actually doing this. Okay. And just that quip of her saying, I smashed fourth walls and also Matt Murdock's was probably it made the whole watching experience worth it for me. The moment she said that, I'm like, okay, this wasn't a waste of time. That was pretty good.
I never read a She-Hulk comic, but
that's how she is in the comics. She breaks the fourth wall like it doesn't
really
exist. Yeah.
That's what I've heard. That's
why it was bearable for me because that's what the comic is. But for a show that was saying that it was supposed to be like a procedural court show, the court stuff was very weak.
And that could have made the show like really cool because court dramas are great. Yeah,
make the episodes longer. Make 20 or 30 minutes of each episode actual courtroom drama. But
they should have.
Marvel.
Well, apparently that's what we're going to be getting in Daredevil Born Again. So I'm really excited to see that. All right, so we are going to number 4.
Oh, I thought we finished.
Yes.
Oh no, we said mine. Did we already talk to yours?
We are at Comic Cuts. Your number 4 is Iron Man, right?
Yeah. Okay. I don't think we did.
All right, so okay. So my 4 is Civil War.
Okay.
Captain America: Civil War is. I mean, this is a movie that had me very, 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 very speechless. I also love how one of the things that I loved is how fluid each character was, if that makes sense. Because when you're watching like Avengers: Age of Ultron, you're getting introduced to Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and then in Captain America: Winter Soldier, you are just meeting Falcon, and then Bucky's coming back. Like in Civil War, it kind of felt like there were more things set in stone, and I am the kind of guy where I like movies where characters are used to each other, if that makes sense, or like I like movies where characters are comfortable in their own skin, more than like an origin film. So I really love the idea that every character knew what they were supposed to do when they had to do it and how they had to, like everyone knew their strengths, everyone knew their weaknesses, even Peter, right? Peter was like the new guy on the block, and Tony just said, keep your distance and web them up. So, I mean, it was a super dope, idea. Now, at the time I wasn't the biggest a fan of like farm family Hawkeye. That's still something that to this day it just the Hawkeye show is great, but family farm Hawkeye for me is just hard to even wrap my mind around. But I do love. I mean, I love the idea that Hawkeye got involved in this, and I honestly think that like the action obviously was top tier, but Zemo, oh my gosh. Zemo is one of the first villains that I've seen that literally had no superpower, really wasn't like the best fighter. Like he didn't really have anything like physically special about him, but he legit played with everyone's mind. And the fact that he took down a whole entire Avengers team with just outwitting everyone was so freaking impressive.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this movie, first of all, the Civil War comic is my favorite comic of all time. Like that series was amazing.
Obviously it's very different than the movie, but the movie was still awesome. It was a bonus Avengers movie. You got to see the Avengers team go at it, like they went against each other, which was really unique for the MCU. The action was awesome. Zemo manipulating the hell out of all the characters, just like that final battle between Iron Man and Cap and Bucky, and seeing Captain America being torn with that whole, he knew he was in the wrong, but he felt bad about it, but he still had to get Bucky's back. Like, that was crazy. And one of the things I think the MCU does a really good job of, and I think this speaks so well to the conflict of the Civil War, is that, at least in my opinion, Captain America pretty much always does the right thing. He's always the voice of reason. He's like, heart of gold, but he's a lonely guy. He's been through a lot, and he will never, he really is like, no matter what, till the end of the line with Bucky. And as much as Iron Man is my favorite character, so that was hard to see. Like, I also got to respect it with Cap, because Cap's one of my favorite characters too. And like I said, I really just think that like he has the right stance on absolutely everything. And I think that's, by the way, one of the things they did so well in the MCU, because he's like that in the comics too.
Yeah.
Especially with the Civil War conflict, because it was a lot darker in the comics, and that was hard for me with Iron Man, because Iron Man's like my favorite, and he was dead wrong in the comics. And Captain America was the one who was like, this is wrong, Tony.
Yeah. And bro, T'Challa was, just mesmerizing every time he was on screen. Every time he was on screen. And the entrance, that might be my favorite Black Panther suit, honestly. But yeah, it was sick. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that thing was sick, bro. Oh my god.
The nanomachine bodysuits from that point, from afterwards, weren't as good as that, like that bulky animalistic cat suit that he had that first one. I was like, oh, so cool looking.
I agree. Yeah, that movie is freaking amazing. All right.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie, not because of, there was a lot of great moments, a lot of great parts, but to me, a good movie is really about the consequences of the ending. And when the Avengers, like, the ending undid a lot of my love for that movie. Like, yes, Captain America and Iron Man are on different sides. The Avengers broke down, but the end had Captain America free everybody, and then even send a cell phone to Tony saying, hey, if you need me, call me. It's like, it felt like the whole conflict still ended with, I'm still your buddy, so here's a high five. Like, I felt like the only way to properly make the stakes even higher would have been to do something absolutely insane, like kill a character off. And if they would have done that, then yes, maybe it would have been a bigger ending for me. But it's like, to me, that's, I think, why Batman and Superman kind of struck a little bit better for me, because they both were essentially the same movie, but at least Batman and Superman had the balls to kill off Superman at the end. Yeah. And that's kind of what I felt like Civil War was missing, was some big universe shattering moment.
Yeah. So you basically think they try to have but that by doing what they did with Rhodey.
Yeah, if they would have killed off Rhodey, it would have made the conflict a bit bigger. If they would have killed off literally anybody, it would have. In the comics, so many characters went down.
Yeah, and spoiler alert: if you're planning on reading it, sorry, but Captain America dies.
Well, he doesn't die in Civil War. He dies after Civil War in the comic that sequeled Civil War, The Death of Captain America.
Right.
So he did survive the Civil War, but then he was hunted down the next day.
Yeah.
So to me, they had some great setup with Crossbones, and then they misused them in a very stupid way very quickly, which I was really bummed out about at the beginning, because in the comic, the mutant killing the school was huge. That makes sense
for the whole registration.
Yeah. But then in the movie, it was a known terrorist being a terrorist, and somehow the Avengers were blamed for it. And I'm like,
yeah. Also, like, you know, that as great as Civil War was, like, that was one of the problems I had too. Also, because I love Frank Grillo as an actor, and I just think that they could have done so much more with Crossbones. You know, and maybe they knew that, you know, they were also going to kill off Captain America too soon to do a Captain America Crossbones movie. I don't really know. But it just seems like such a waste of talent, because Frank Grillo Crossbones should have been like, you know, major villain in at least one movie.
And that was, I think that was just back down to the studio drama of it all. Like, Civil War only came about because they saw that DC was making BVS, and they're like, if they're going to raise the stakes, we have to raise the stakes too. Because originally we were supposed to get Captain America 3, the Serpent Society.
Serpent Society, yeah.
And even though they tried to play it off saying, oh, that was a joke, we were never doing it. No, the reality was, they even said multiple interviews, they were 100% doing that. And then once DC announced BVS, they went back to page one rewrite, redid the whole plan, and then we got what we got.
Yeah. Which
is like, I would have rather them waited to do Civil War when they had a few more Avengers than the airport scene was like 6-on-6. Like, Civil War should have been a Phase 4 project. Like, where there was like more characters, like Daredevil in the fight, Moon Knight in the fight. Like, give me
Shang-Chi would have been dope in that too.
Yeah. Like, Punisher would have been sick in that.
Yeah.
He would have been away from that. He wouldn't have bothered. He would have been like, nope, that's their fight. I'm gonna keep it.
Yeah. I also wish that Nick Fury was in it as well. Like, because Nick Fury was the one to bring them back every time. So if like Tony and Steve just told Nick, like, nah, like, this fight is going to happen regardless, you know, it would have been awesome. But to me, like, the ending, seeing that Bucky killed Tony's parents was like a heart-wrenching moment. And like seeing Tony just go off like that and really take on Cap and Bucky like on his own, obviously with a suit, was a pretty crazy scene. Definitely when Bucky legit tried to take his arc reactor and then it blew off his freaking hand. And then when Tony Stark analyzes their fight combos like mid-fight and then literally goes into this combat mode where he can see all the moves before they do them, like, bro, that was crazy.
That to me was fantastic. But I also, like, there was a lot of rumors that Jeff Johns leaked the script for BVS to Marvel. And that was one of those moments when I saw that in the film, I'm like, maybe this is true. Because there was a plot point where Batman is fighting Superman and he's fighting him exactly the way Zod was fighting Superman. He basically watched the tape, watched the fight, and then mimicked his fight so that he would know what punches were coming. And I'm like, Iron Man just did what Batman did. I feel like this rumor would be real.
What a douche.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
There's a lot of stuff. And I mean, you have like the mastermind villain who breaks up the heroes, and like, okay, like Luthor, Zemo, like I get it. Like there was a lot of stuff that was very similar. But I digress. Let's go to number 3.
Number 3, my boys. I know, right? This is what happens when you just get these knowledgeable guys on here, man. It's gonna be a long one. All right, number 3. We are going to start with Comics Cuts, bro. What is your number 3?
Civil War.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh god.
What a wonderful world, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything you got to say about it, bro?
You know, like I said, I really think I touched on everything, but like it was it is my favorite comic. It is, you know, it's the comic that got me into Marvel Comics. It is so fire. The movie was so good. I find that like when I want to watch an MCU movie, this is the one that I probably watch the most. Just a haymaker of a movie. Felt like a bonus Avengers movie. I love the conflict. I love what they're fighting. I love what Captain America stood for in the movie. I also loved what Iron Man, was standing up for himself at the end. And I didn't like how Captain America got Bucky's back, but like I respect it. Like it was just like, I think that everyone came from a good angle. I don't like the registration thing that Iron Man was pushing on, but like I said, I think there were things that that Iron Man was fighting for and Captain America was fighting for. And I think that, any reasonable person could see what these people were fighting for, understand why they're fighting for it. And, I think that's what made the movie so interesting, that everyone had a perspective that was understandable and reasonable, and it was hard to see your favorite team and your favorite characters go against each other. But like at the same time, it was understandable given the conflict, given what had happened. And the movie was just so good because of that to me. And that's what hit home with me.
My issue with the Sokovia Accords was how it quickly came into spotlight, and then how like they brushed it away behind the scenes. To me, it's like it was like what they did with Endgame and Infinity War, and then they do the 5-year jump. Like, yes, it's a huge deal, and it should still be a huge deal. But when you find out that in She-Hulk, in a random comment, that they repealed the Sokovia Accords, or that no one is acknowledging that the MCU is 5 years later than what it was when it started, it's kind of like, it seems like a wasted plot point. And that's kind of why I was always frustrated with it, was that the Sokovia Accords are huge. And yet it didn't feel like every movie was battling it like it should have been. Because every movie after the Civil War should have been dealing with, I can't operate because this is Sokovia Accord. So I'm like, there should have been some angle of, oh, Daredevil is doing his thing. And also there's a cop saying, who the hell's that guy? Shoot at him. Like, they should have had more with the Sokovia Accords.
It should be prevalent in every movie, in every MCU.
And it shouldn't have been repealed off screen in between 2 TV shows.
100%. 100%.
Agreed. All right. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is Thor.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. I'm waiting to hear this.
Great choice.
The first Thor movie was one of the first times I sat down in a theater where I saw a modern Shakespearean style movie. And that's what this movie was. And like, it's very rare, especially in Marvel. Like, you don't see this a lot, where I mean, obviously in Captain America, he says, like, you need to be the guy that jumps down on the grenade. Like, yes, 100%. Thor literally did that in this movie. Like, he was ready to die. He was expecting to die. He chose to sacrifice himself, and that's what made him worthy. Like, that is the true essence of a hero's journey. And I love that movie unapologetically.
I do too, by the way. I think it was great. And like the final battle scene when he still had hope for Loki, and Loki was like, and he let go. That was so sad. Yeah. I never thought about it as like a modern Shakespearean story, which is interesting because I remember when we read Macbeth in high school, and like I loved Macbeth so much. We had the choice to either do a short film with a couple friends or write an essay. I think I was the only person in the class that did a short film, and like my friends that didn't want to write the essay were like, "Can I be in it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But yeah, it totally is a Shakespearean movie, and that makes it so much better for me. But it's funny because when you asked me for my list and you told me that yours is very different, I was wondering what's going to be in your top 3, and it's funny because Thor, like, I kind of felt like I should put it on the top 10, and so I'm glad to see it as your number 3.
What I also loved about this movie was that it tried as much as it could to be faithful to the mythology. With obviously they changed some things because Laufey was no longer Loki's mom but Loki's dad, which was kind of a weird change. But the inclusion of Yggdrasil and having Yggdrasil be the galaxy was, I thought, especially if you watch the ending credits when they do the whole galaxy thing and you actually see them pan out and you see the galaxy all separated and it is the big tree. That was such a cool shot. And I really loved that if it would have been earlier in the film, because unless you're watching through the credits, you won't catch it. But it's
right.
They did this really, really wonderful thing with trying to basically mix religion and science in a way that the MCU hasn't tried to do. There was a good chunk of time where the MCU tried to basically say no religion is real, everything is science, and now they're like, but the gods are real. And now they're doing that.
Yeah, we're got it up now, bro.
Yeah, like let's show two giant Egyptian gods fight over a pyramid. Let's do this. Like they're now embracing the weird, and I'm okay with it. But like during that time, it was one of the first times where they tried to say that magic and science are the same, the deities are the same as science, but let's not bore you with the explanation. Let's just say that yes, what these people believed in thousands of years ago was very real.
Yeah.
And this is why. And it was really cool to see. I would have preferred if they would have gone a little bit bigger with some of it, like the intro with the frost giants and freezing all the Vikings. That was cool, but it should have been a bigger scene. Especially if you watch that scene and realize that that's the same village that was in Captain America, the movie right after this one. I was like, oh, they should have done better to explain that.
Yeah.
But there is so much about this movie that I just unapologetically love. The one thing that I forever hate, though, is Chris Hemsworth's weird bleached eyebrows that they only did in this movie, and then they realized it was bad. They never did it again. That was the worst.
That, but that does sound really
Watch it
weird.
again. You'll see, like, why is his eyebrow so yellow? And then the next movie, like, oh, they're normal color again. Okay.
You know what I really don't like is that, like, Thor 1 and 2 were so good, and, you know, the MCU didn't really have a choice, I don't think, with, you know, losing Iron Man and Cap, but it seems like because they lost so many great characters that they should be playing it safe with characters like Thor, and they're just not. And like, I just don't see how after Love and Thunder, they're going to ever have Thor not be a clown. Like, I don't know. I just feel like once you go that silly, there's no turning back. And and we talk about this all the time. It makes me really, really worried about like what's the Avengers roster going to be when Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars come out?
Well, Kang Dynasty is going to be the Young Avengers, but Secret Wars is going to be everybody.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's going to be
everyone.
Very weird. Everyone, including some extra Spider-Man, some X-Men, and a few other things. Like Secret Wars is big. But they're also kind of semi-rebooting the MCU after Secret Wars. I don't think enough people are talking about that. So.
Yes. Well, bro. Well, so I was just watching something earlier, and I was doing some reading. They were talking about after Secret Wars, we might be getting a whole phase just with a bunch of events happening on Battle World.
That'd be interesting.
And then basically after that, they were there. Apparently, like there's going to be like a big reboot where, like, so. At least the rumors, yeah. Well, bro, they were saying that the reboot was going to go to the Ultimate Universe, I think, or something like that. It's going to be very interesting to see what they're going to do, man.
The interesting thing about
the MCU is pretty much the Ultimate Universe, anyways.
Yeah,
right. It has been since the beginning. Like Avengers 1 was straight out of that first Ultimates. Mark Millar, Millar, sorry.
So, all right. Where we at? Are we at number?
Right,
all right, we're at number
3.
Oh, my number 3 is Infinity War. Infinity War is my number 3.
That's a good segue. That's my opinion.
Yeah. There you go. In my opinion, I think this was Iron Man's best performance. In my opinion, I really think that. Also, I think that this. How can I say this? I love the fact that Tony didn't call Steve. I love the fact that it kind of felt like I was opening up a page to a comic book. Iron Man's like fighting an alien. Spidey's on the bus. He sees something happening, and he just comes in out of freaking nowhere. Hey, man, like it was just like was watching this film just made me feel like I was like just open up a page to a comic book, and then seeing Iron Man and Spider-Man in space. I'm not gonna lie, it was super weird, but I loved it. And now I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't the wasn't the biggest fan of the Iron Spider suit at first, and I do feel like it got abused a lot, even all the way into
100%.
Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah, it was just atrocious how much we saw to that suit. But for that to be in Avengers, like in Infinity War, and for the fact that Tony's like in freaking space was super awesome. And then we go to the guard. I mean, the whole entire film was fire. And one of my favorite scenes was when we go to with Wakanda, and obviously they have up the freaking vibranium force field, and these little freaking animals are just killing themselves trying to get through. And then we see Tony and T'Challa run up together, sprinting like animals, and then they just beat the crap out of these freaking I forget what they were called. Do you guys remember what they were called?
But the villain things,
I was just talking about this the other day. I forget the name of it.
Yeah, I forget the name too.
it wasn't the Corpus Glaive or any of those guys. It was
No, that was the Black Order, or the Order,
Yeah.
they called it.
the Outriders, right?
The Outriders, yes,
Outriders,
the Outriders. Yeah, it was just like the movie so was crazy. And to be honest, like going into the film, I was a little nervous about like, was I going to like the idea that we're painting from space to Earth, I kind of feel like it was going to be a little clunky, but to be honest, the reason that it works is because Thanos was kind of the guy that was going back and forth from Earth, like, you know what I mean? So man, that freaking movie was just drop dead amazing. So yeah, man.
By the way,
The moment the movie started and Thanos beats the crap out of the Hulk, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be different. But then when he kills Loki, I was watching this with my son, and he's like, can they do that in this movie? I'm looking at him, I'm like, I don't know. That I didn't think that you were allowed to choke out somebody, snap their neck, and have their eyes bleed in a PG-13 movie.
Yes,
I didn't think that was allowed. I'm like, oh my goodness, this movie is intense. Like right off the bat, I was like, okay, here we go.
How old was your son when you were seeing that?
He's 15 now. When did the movie come out?
2017 or 2018?
No, it's 2018. So it was 5 years ago.
2018, yeah.
He was like 11 or 12 in that range, and he was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh,
All
this is
right."
different.
Yeah.
But I will say, like I said, Infinity War is essentially a Thor movie, like because Thor was the main character of this movie. Like,
Yeah,
It really was.
And you mentioned before that I don't know how they could bring back Thor after what they did with Love and Thunder, and I don't think they can. But I literally said the same thing after Ragnarok, and they did it with Infinity War. Like, they stripped him down to nothing. There was some funny comments with the Guardians about he was like a sexy pirate angel. I was like, that was pretty fun. But him going like to get the hammer, like to get the new weapon forged, and that moment when he teleported with Stormbreaker in the fight, the entire audience screamed when like they're losing, and all of a sudden, boom! It comes down, and he's just standing there, and the Stormbreaker's flying around, killing everything. I'm like, this movie has peaked. Here it is. This is it.
Yeah,
like,
this
is the moment that I want to cheer. And I don't like clapping or cheering in movies, but I was so like,
I don't either, by the way.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Well, it was, and I know he says this in Endgame, but like when Iron Man and he's like all skinny and he's got the IV, and Captain America is like, oh, and I heard you were fighting with Thanos. It's like, who told you that? We didn't fight. He wiped my face with the planet. Like that fight was insane.
But I like I said before, I always attributed a good movie the ballsiness of the ending, and having Thanos win is the ballsiest ending you could do. Like you think that there's a chance. You're like, okay, Thor's got it. He just took down, like, there's a Stormbreaker just taking down the Infinity Gauntlet. Like,
should have went for the head.
He slammed him in the chest. And be like, he won. This is it. The movie's okay. All right. And then he's like, you should have gone for the head. And the snap happens, and you see everyone start dissolving. And I'm like, oh my God, they went so much harder than I was expecting. Spider-Man just died. The whole Guardian died. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah. They even killed off the fan favorite who was Black Panther. Like, because Black Panther, that movie, they were big. And I remember people were freaking out, like, yo, like, they were like, they're like, is like Chadwick's like contract actually done? I was like, yo, it's like, guys, no. But like
Yeah.
a lot of people don't even talk about Doctor Strange, about the role that, I mean, having Benedict Cumberbatch and Robert Downey Jr. together was such a perfect collaboration for a freaking each scene, and they ate up every single one, man. Oh my gosh.
By the way, that was my favorite like dynamic between the whole movie was Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Doctor Strange. Like following them was my favorite. Also, just because Iron Man and Spider-Man are my favorite characters, like period. Doctor Strange, his Benedict Cumberbatch, perfect. Like their synergy on that spaceship was perfect. And like talk about the ballsiness of the ending, like. This is the only Marvel movie where the protagonists lost.
Yeah.
And that shit was insane. And that's what set up Endgame to be so fucking crazy.
Yeah, and it was a very I remember when the movie ended and I'm like, I already know what's coming. I know what they're doing with Endgame and they're bringing everyone back. I understand this. But it was like the audience was completely shocked. Like nobody was talking when I was walking out of the theater and I'm like, they did something very unique here. This is something else. But also, like, I did. It was one of the first times that I actually truly appreciated Doctor Strange in the MCU. I love Doctor Strange in the comics, but the Doctor Strange movie deviated a lot from the source material.
Thank you.
And
thank you for saying that, bro.
I had some big issues with that because in the comics, Doctor Strange could use magic to materialize physical objects, but in the movie, I'm going to materialize energy that looks like these things. And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that. And they actually fixed that for the Infinity War when he actually is making weapons that look like weapons. And now they're doing it for like realsies and the rest of the Doctor Strange stuff. He's actually doing it like the comics. But I really appreciated him in this movie, and the line where he said, "Oh, we're using our made up names now. I'm Spider-Man." Like that was one of the moments where I'm like, "Okay, I kind of like Tom Holland Spider-Man now. This works." So
yeah. Nah, dude, nah. The most freaking hilarious part was when the Guardians first come and Doctor Strange was like, "Who do you serve?" And the Star-Lord said,
"What do you mean, Jesus?"
Oh my gosh, man! That movie.
You're like, you're from Earth. Amazing. I'm from Kansas. That's on Earth, idiot.
That was great.
It's a good movie. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
And I liked how
what a great time.
They were smart enough to allow the people who made these characters worth watching to be in the writers' room to make the characters still worth watching. Like having James Gunn be overseeing the scripting part for the Guardians scenes. That's the only way you can do the Guardians.
Yep.
So it worked very well.
Agreed.
I wish the Russo brothers were still a part of the MCU. By the way, Stevie and Taylor, you might know this too, but did Jeff Loveness have a hand in writing out Phase 4?
I don't think so, but let me check.
I mean, because who the hell wrote Phase 4? Jesus.
Well, so Jeff Loveness, I know that he's part of Quantumania and a few other things, but I don't think he's been there the whole time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's just jumped on now.
Yeah, because Kevin Feige said that he has most of the MCU planned out in post-it notes in his office.
Yeah.
So you can kind of attribute it to the weird storytelling to Kevin Feige's. Now we can do this, so let's open up this floodgate, and he can just start slapping posters all over his wall. But I don't know. I don't think he's been as integral to the whole thing as he is lately, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Phase 4 was written in house though. I'm pretty sure there weren't Phase 4. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was written in house, and I'm pretty and I know with Thor, Love and Thunder, they gave Taika Waititi like free reign, and that's a lot of the reason why like that movie failed. But yeah, man, very interesting. Okay, sorry,
I was going to say, isn't what's his name? Isn't Taika Waititi doing the next Star Wars movies or something?
He's doing a Star Wars movie, but not the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, like
so they're giving him
how in the world?
I don't think it's going to go, because Star Wars already passed on Kevin Feige and Patty Jenkins because they didn't like the final drafts, and I think the only reason they haven't passed on Taika's is because it's not done. The draft isn't done yet, and once they see what it is, they may pass on it as well.
So, I really hope so. I really hope so.
Like, same here.
Taika is really good when he's allowed full control from the ground up, but if you give him characters that pre-exist, no. Like, if you watch projects like Jojo Rabbit, like, yeah, he did a great job on that one. It was quirky, it was weird, but it got very dark and very real when it needed to be. And same with like oh my god, I just forgot the vampire one he did. Taika's vampire movie.
Hold on. Taika,
good lord, what is his name? There's a TV show for it on FX.
What We Do in the Shadows?
Yes, What We Do in the Shadows was probably
people love that.
Favorite vampire movies, and the TV show is absolutely hilarious because it's like a sequel to the movie. So, I think that Taika is good at what he does when he's allowed to be from the ground up, but don't give him anything pre-existing because he's going to defile it. So,
right. It's going to be like too Zack big Snyder. Of a departure.
Yeah.
I like Zack Snyder. I know Taylor does too. He's not a fan.
I love Zack Snyder, but I think that Zack Snyder, the biggest issue with Zack Snyder's movies isn't that they're not good, is that they're made for a specific group, and general audiences didn't take to it. So I think that was the big issue, is that you're trying to fit a square in a round peg, and it's not going to work.
True.
Good way to put it.
All right, now we are at number 2. It's getting thin in here. The air is I can't feel it in my throat anymore. All right, comic cuts. What is your number 2, my brother?
Endgame. Endgame was epic. Like, it was a love letter to everything that came before it. You know, like Taylor was saying before, all the moments. You know, Tony Stark, the Howard Stark. You know, that final battle scene was incredible. By the way, God of War Ragnarok, the ending felt like the ending of Avengers Endgame. You know, like that final battle scene, you know, Tony Stark. I don't think this movie is as good on rewatches, even though it's still amazing on rewatches. But the surprise of Tony Stark, you know, I am Iron Man, dying, you know, Captain America, you know, going back, living his life, aging himself, that final funeral scene, it just really hits. And, you know, the time travel being like a complete adventure, and even the way it opened up, like, I like that they really kind of let us sit with, like, this was the effect of the Avengers losing to fucking Thanos. And, you know, like, Natasha crying, Hawkeye becoming Ronin, like, just everything. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could praise this movie any more than I could. It would be my number 1. If it's probably very obvious what my number one is right now, but yeah, I thought Endgame was incredible. And, you know I said before about Iron Man, like, Iron Man really kicked off the MCU. But the thing that, like, Endgame did and Infinity War is it really won over, like, just the hype of those 2 movies really won over the people who never watched a Marvel movie. Like, I know a lot of people who, when those movies came out, the hype behind that, you know, came about because of those 2 movies, they were like, okay, now I'm going to watch Marvel. And then they became really big Marvel fans. And then Phase 4 happened. And they're like, let down.
Yeah.
My dad was a huge Marvel fan growing up. Thor and Iron Man were his favorite characters. And he said flat out after Endgame, he's like, I'm done. That was perfect. I don't want to watch anything else because it will ruin it for me. And he hasn't picked up the newer stuff. So I told him that I'll let him know when it's worth watching. No, I did him to watch Doctor Strange. And I did get him to watch Spider-Man because he liked the other heroes, and so I got him to watch the new one.
Okay.
But he hasn't committed to anything. He doesn't want to watch. He said he will not watch Love and Thunder because he loves Thor, and the trailer really put him off. So I'm like, good, don't watch it.
Yeah, smart. It was brutal.
But yeah, I think I'll try to get him on a few other things. I think I'll try to sit him down with Loki and see if he likes that. So,
oh, what a great show!
Loki's a good
So
one.
good.
Loki's hard to deny that it's fantastic.
Agreed. All right, what is your number 2, bro?
Oh, we already talked about it. Infinity War. We talked about it when you brought it up.
Oh yeah, true. Oh gosh. All right, my number 2 is the Winter Soldier. I mean, we are already talked about it, but I'll just leave it here. To think that
we can talk a lot about that.
All right, yo, dude. Okay, so to think that we had 2 directors who were really like comedy actors come in and create a masterpiece like this is still an anomaly to me.
Yeah. It segued off of Community onto this.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like how and what like how do you know this? It's just not. It should be impossible. And like not to also mention that now this is my favorite Captain America costume. I love the darker tones with the silver. That is my favorite suit of all time for Cap. I also was a little. There's only one disappointment that I have, and it is because I did not ship the Natasha Romanoff and the Bruce Banner relationship. I thought that Natasha and Steve were kind of going to build something, and like they kind of just left it there. Wasn't really a big fan of that, but I mean, let's just talk about the beginning. I mean, Nick Fury in this film, the fact that like this man dies and comes back to life. I mean, which is a pretty Nick Fury thing to do, obviously, but I mean. The whole entire movie, like, I mean, the opening scene, like, when he just telling him and, like, Natasha just having a convo of, like, yo, like, I just don't go on tickets because I have stuff going on. And then bro just jumps off a plane with no parachute. like, it's just nuts. And then, like, I even remember coming off the Avengers high, and I'm pretty sure you guys were on that as well. We go into freaking, wait, doesn't Thor Dark World come off first or no?
I think the release order was Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, and then we had Captain America,
the Winter Soldier. Yeah, because so my dad is the biggest Chris Evans fan ever. I don't know why, but the Fantastic Four, for some reason, Chris Evans and as a Human Torch stole my dad's heart. He's one of the biggest Chris Evans fans, and my dad just kept talking to me about the freaking Winter, the Winter Soldier film, and I just will never forget the freaking boat scene when he's on that yacht or whatever, and he's just taking out people, just running by, just beating the crap out of them. One of the most memorable scenes of all time. But I also love how they managed.
Solid too, by the way.
Yes. And I also love how they managed to pull off a political thriller that touched on a topic which is really about just like how much power will the government have to watch over us and stuff. But they pulled off this political thriller with stellar action while furthering a story while giving us the Winter Soldier. I mean, this movie's perfect. I mean,
it really is perfect.
Yeah, it's the movie's freaking like.
I love it so much, but it also has given me a lot of things to tease people with, and I have a lot of references that I like to play off it. Like my wife, we have a pool at our house, and every time she like goes swimming and like she'll get out and her makeup's running, I'm like, hey, who the hell's Bucky? And she's like, stop it! Like she gets mad at me for something like that. Because I love that Robert Redford signed on to be the villain. That you don't get that with Robert Redford, and
he killed it.
And I remember when I saw that movie, and that scene happens where he's like sitting there in his kitchen, the Winter Soldier's sitting there, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna kill him. Then he sits down and he says, we have to move the timeline up. I'm like, oh my god! Like that was one of the first times I'm like, I was not expecting that. Like the head of Shield is Hydra. Oh my god! Like that caught me off guard. And the fact that like I said, movies and consequences. The movie ended with Captain America dismantling the America's like intelligence system. Like he basically just said, "Oh, by the way, CIA, FBI, nobody. It's broken now. It's all gone."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh my god, that's the most Captain America thing he's done in these movies. Was destroying the government that was not his government anymore."
Right. It was perfect, and that just the action throughout the whole movie was insane.
I mean, that fist fight between Bucky and Cap in the street it's still like, come on, MCU, your greatness, just keep doing that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Yes.
crazy, like, how they just did hit after hit after hit, and now Phase 4 is like, what the fuck,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And then, dude, wait, sorry, keep going. Sorry.
It feels like the Phase 4 has two movies that almost everyone loves, and there's no debate around, and those are No Way Home and Shang-Chi. And like, I know there's some people that really like Multiverse of Madness, and we spoke about this recently, like, and I didn't know this until Stevie told me, but Taylor, I'm sure you're aware, Multiverse of Madness, they had in the can finished, and America Chavez was supposed to be in No Way Home, and then they put her in the Multiverse of Madness. Like, what the hell? But Multiverse of Madness should have been up there with No Way Home and Shang-Chi, and should have been an undisputable hit.
I mean, I love Multiverse of Madness. I love that movie. The only thing that pisses me off while we're here about Doctor Strange, why is this man not the Sorcerer Supreme? Come on, like, can we just get that, bro? Sorry,
it's kind of stupid.
That gets me very angry. All right, Taylor, do you have anything to say? Did you like Multiverse of Madness?
I actually really did.
Yes.
I love Multiverse of Madness. It's probably the most Sam Raimi movie Sam Raimi has made since The Evil Dead. And I love that movie. My only complaint was that for a movie called The Multiverse of Madness, we only went to 2 different worlds. Like, we needed a little bit more.
That's a good point.
But seeing Professor X come down with an orchestrated X-Men 97 theme song was like, oh my god, my childhood, here we go. Like, because that was like, I used to watch that show live on Fox in the mornings. Like, that was my jam as a kid. So yeah, it was super good. I'm bummed out that the pandemic screwed everything up, because that movie was supposed to be bigger. I mean, we lost the chance of having Balder, the son of Odin, being on the Illuminati. We lost Obadiah Stane being on the Illuminati. We lost so much by the pandemic ruining the filming. So,
and Balder was going to be Daniel Craig, right?
Yeah.
What? Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
Craig,
that hurts. That hurts in the soul.
It does. But so much of that movie got destroyed because of the pandemic. So, I mean, that's why they shifted Spider-Man to before it, and why we had America Chavez go from being in both films only to one film, because they were supposed to have Spider-Man afterwards, and she was supposed to carry over into Spider-Man and then be the reason why the other 2 Spider-Mans show up, but they couldn't do that because they're like, oh no, now we have to change the release dates because they're not going to be ready in time. And so let's just cut out all of that stuff, and let's just put let's give Ned magic powers, and he'll just pull them up. But no, it was I liked it for what it was.
Bet. All right. Okay, so now, guys, we are at number 1. Now we already know. Yeah, Taylor's number 1 is the Winter Soldier. What is your number 1, bro?
Infinity War. Yeah, start to finish, just like an adventure through and through. Russo brothers did like the best writing on Thor. Like I said, Iron Man, that Thanos fight was incredible. The only movie where the Avengers, they literally fucking lost, but I kind of gave my piece on this movie already, so. But for me, like, that's my favorite MCU movie.
My big gripe with Infinity War was them changing things at the last minute. the fact that they took out what could have been one of the greatest Hulk scenes in the MCU was a bummer. And then the fact that the next movie they explained it away off camera, which was such a frustrating bit. Because originally, I mean, you can see the deleted scene online. You can find it. When,
Okay.
Hulk was fighting, he basically convinced the Hulk to become one with him. He broke out of the Hulkbuster suit as the Hulk. And then when Natasha was trying to do it's getting real dark here, and he's like, no, Natasha, it's fine. And she's like, oh my God, you can talk. And he's like, give you an understanding. We're one person now. Like, that would have been such a crazy moment on film. But instead, we just had this like diner conversation where they're like, I just mixed it together. Boom.
Yeah.
I put the brain in the brawn.
We had such a great moment where he basically told the Hulk, I'm done fighting you. You're part of me. Let's be one. And then they threw it away for it.
They never really utilized the Hulk, but didn't something just happen with like the rights over the Hulk?
Not really. It's not done yet.
No.
Okay.
There's a lot of
But
people talking about it, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
So, dang, bro. All right, Infinity War, the Winter Soldier, and mine's is obviously Avengers Endgame. That's my favorite MCU film of all time. I just that movie has the best music I've ever heard in any movie since freaking Star Wars. I'm gonna be honest. I for some reason those scores just does something to me. It puts me in a freaking trance. Fun fact. My wife walked down to the Avengers theme for our wedding actually, and I broke down crying. And I'm not sure if I broke down because of the theme song and thinking of Tony passing, or because she was just beautiful walking down the aisle. Still trying to figure that out. Just kidding. But no,
The answer is the wife was beautiful. That's the answer.
Exactly. Emily, if you're watching, you were gorgeous. That's why I cried. I'm kidding. Don't kill me tonight. So I am a sucker for like nostalgia and I am a sucker for time. I'm a time traveling kind of a guy. So this just fit for me perfect. I love the way that time travel was put in this film. I am happy that like we didn't go like the old school type of time where like I can go back in time and if I make my dad scratch his nose, then I'm like never born. I'm glad it's not that type of time travel. I love how simple it was, and I do feel like in this phase that we're in now, it's starting to get a little more complicated. Like I understand it, but it's hard for me to explain it to other people. But yeah, man, I just love this film inside and out, and I mean the greatest ending of all time. Greatest ending of all time. I mean, were you guys expecting Tony Stark to do the snap? Because I wasn't.
I was not.
You was?
But yeah.
Yeah. Now I am really not happy with what they've done with Cap afterwards. I kind of wanted Cap to still be involved in the MCU, even as old man Steve. But in regards to how it serves the film, I mean, this is like it's the most perfect way that you can go. And I'm so happy. This might sound bad, but I'm so happy that Natasha got killed off. I going into the film, I thought it was going to be Hawkeye, but I'm just so happy that like they gave them a motivation to like actually try to get things done, because it kind of seemed like through the first two Avengers films, they came out basically unscathed. You know what I mean? Like no one really got hurt like to that degree. And so coming out knowing that Natasha's going and there's no coming back, like she's done. I thought that was very awesome. So yeah, I mean, this movie is great. I mean, there's no other way to put that. And I definitely do have some gripes with the film. Professor Hulk to me was just the worst. I don't know why. It just didn't hit well. Would be Fat Thor. Why the heck? Why would you not, when he gets both hammers, like, come on. He's still fat, bro. Come on, man. Like, come on. It just looked weird when he was even fighting. I mean, it was just, yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that. But
it was
I mean,
funny though in the beginning part of the movie, like,
oh yeah,
you know.
yeah. But like we're getting serious and this man legit is still fat. I'm like, bro.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
apparently originally he was supposed to get back to God Bod, but Chris Hemsworth wanted Thor to stay fat. And he begged them to stay fat. And so that's why he stayed fat. Like I just don't get like Kevin Feige, come on. But nah, man, this movie is great. I mean, and what a perfect ending.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, it's hard to argue. It's a good ending. It's a great movie. Yeah. I mean, you can't really argue with it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
no debate to be had.
Exactly. So, guys, after 2 hours and 24 minutes, we gave you guys our top 10. Guys, do me a favor. If you are on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, if you are on YouTube, please follow The Culture. They put out great content. They have become my news source. And I just started getting into their podcast, and they just give out so many great gems. And you guys, and if you want to be tuned in, that's where you need to be. All right, you need to be watching them, and literally, I mean, they're always active on Instagram, like they're always posting. So please give them a follow. Taylor,
And
bro,
by the
thank
way,
you. Yeah,
Taylor is the king of Q&A.
I try.
Yes.
To be. I just try to be real with people.
Much respect to it.
yes, his Q&As are fire. So, I mean, so
I
yeah,
do them until they tell me I can't do anymore. And apparently, I think Instagram has a cap at 100 questions.
Oh, wow.
Really?
I didn't know that.
So as soon as I get capped out, then it won't let me go any further. That's when I'm done. So
That's a lot, though. That just shows the dedication. 100 answers.
well, I tend to get way more than I can actually answer. So I always just go through and answer the best I can.
That's awesome, man. All right, great, perfect. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for hopping on, bro. Like, we really appreciate you hopping on. Thank you so much. And guys, remember, guys, live your life. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't really say anything inspirational. Guys, just have a wonderful night. Stay crispy. Make sure you eat your protein. All right. Make sure you eat some broccoli tonight, some chicken, some rice. Eat something healthy. You know what I mean? We prioritize health around here. So we love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Peace.